about the choices that you make.
You wanna know why we do the things that we do? You wanna know why we say the things that we say? Systematic thinking, yeah. Why we do the things that we do? Systematic thinking.
Good evening and welcome to Soul Food History, where we celebrate the successes of Black Americans. I am Chef Earl Pearl at DBCHEFTV, always with my brother and co-host Lucci at Lucci on Facebook. Peace, God.
Peace. How's it going today, my brother?
I'm all right. How your day been today, bro?
Everything been great, bro. Just looking forward to the show for sure.
Absolutely. We got a great show put together this evening, and before we get into the show, everyone out there, make sure to like and share the video. Also, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so when we go live, you never miss an episode of Soul Food History. And also, we got some links in the description, y'all. So make sure to check out them links in the description. And yeah, let's get into the show. We got some honorees. Let's look at who we're honoring, who our honorary Black Americans are this evening. And tonight, y'all, we're gonna be celebrating Dr. Ben Carson, Shirley Chisholm, and Byron Island. That's what we're going to be looking at this evening, y'all. That's what we're going to be learning about and celebrating and talking about the things that they have overcome and accomplished and the examples that they have set for other Black Americans who look like them. So first, I think we're going to go ahead and get into Dr. Ben Carson. I think that's who we're going to pull up first.
Okay.
So we have Dr. Benjamin Solomon Carson Sr., born September 18th, 1951, is an American retired neurosurgeon, academic, author, and government official who served as the 17th United States Secretary of Housing and Urban Development from 2017 to 2021. A pioneer in the field of neurosurgery, he also was a candidate for the President of the United States in 2016 in the Republican primaries. You know what? That completely has slipped my mind. Did you ever remember that he ran for that he was one of the candidates in 2016?
Yes, I was aware of that, and that's why me first hearing about him when he was dealing with that platform had me thinking that he was more of a political person and involved with politics, possibly as a, career base. But as I've learned more information about him, he's centered and always been centered in the medical field. And so that situation where he was a Republican candidate for president was something that introduced him to a lot of people, but his works that he accomplished in the medical field, he seemed to be a lot more advanced and credible than a lot of other people in the medical field.
Definitely. Yeah, he definitely got it going on when you talk about neurosurgery. I think they're going to talk about that later. They had the movie Gifted Hands that is a phenomenal movie about him and some of his Nobel Peace Prize winner. I don't know if he got a Nobel. You know what? We're gonna find out before we just put that on him. But he did complete the brain surgery, I believe. You know what? We're gonna learn about it. We're gonna learn about it. But one thing I want to note before we continue to read about Dr. Ben Carson is it says he's a retired neurosurgeon, academic author, and government official. That's a lot of stuff he got going on. You know, that's a long list of accomplishments to start one place, to have a goal and start one place, and then segue it into other things and begin to, to assert yourself in other areas of professionalism. And like I said, y'all, we celebrate. That's what we do. So when we look at neurosurgeon, academic, author, government official, all of those things are celebratory. All of those things are noteworthy. Those accomplishments that he put his brain to, he made a plan, and he accomplished it. Not so much the president thing, but you can't win them all. But just to be in that position where you can actually possibly even get the backing of the Republican Party, that's notable. That's notable. No matter how, no matter which side of the aisle you lean on, that's notable for anybody to achieve that. Continuing to read, Carson became the director of pediatric neurosurgery at the Johns Hopkins Children's Center in '84 at the age of 33. Then the youngest chief of pediatric neurosurgery in the United States. Okay. So in '84, he was 33. And he was the youngest chief of pediatric neurosurgery in the US. So that was already making history right there. All right, to be the youngest. Okay. Now they don't even colorize it and make it a black or white thing. They just say he was the youngest to do it. So being the youngest to do it, that means it's not even about race at this point. It's about accomplishing something being determined and self-determined to accomplish something at such a young age. And I think that's the part that really needs to be highlighted and celebrated.
Yeah, you would think that with that much by that age, they don't really speak much about his educational path yet, but I'm pretty sure it was extensive, well beyond a regular pursuit of a degree to have those titles at such a young age. So it sounds like he went to school and then went to school even more, and may have been the type of person that continued in school for quite some time, even after he had started accomplishing.
Yeah, I agree. It seemed like he was not partying. He wasn't distracted by a lot of the BS that was going on. And even when you look at in '84 at 33, in '84 at 33, man, a lot of people was plagued by the crack epidemic.
True.
So to be born in '51, when was the Civil Rights Act was what, 63, 64?
True.
So he would have been 13 at around that time, and then coming up through the 60s and the 70s, shout out to his parents, man, or whoever was there, whoever was the village behind him, surrounding him, supporting his efforts, man, encouraging him, because that's also important. Continuing to read, in 1987, he gained significant fame after leading a team of surgeons in the first known separation of conjoined twins at the back of the head. Siamese twins, y'all. The first known separation of Siamese twins. Although the surgery was a success, the twins did continue to experience neurological and medical complications. And not even being a doctor, I could understand that, because they was born like that. So that's kind of like how they were supposed to be, birth in a crazy kind of way. His additional accomplishments include performing the first successful neurosurgical procedure on a fetus inside a womb, developing new methods to treat brainstem tumors, and revitalizing hysterectomy techniques for controlling seizures. He's written over 100 neurosurgical publications, and he retired from medicine in 2013. At that time, he was a professor of neurosurgery, oncology, plastic surgery, and pediatrics at the Johns Hopkins School of Medicine. Now, you know what I'm saying? We be trying to keep it a little professional on here, but that's a lot of shit, man. Shout out to him. He was a professor of neurosurgery, oncology, plastic surgery, and pediatrics.
Yeah, he really surrounded himself continuously with education. And he was not only teaching, he was still, giving examples and doing groundbreaking work by covering all those areas at the same time. And Johns Hopkins is one of the best medical institutions in this country.
In the country, right?
Yeah, so you're not talking about nothing lightweight, and the 100 neurosurgical publications. I mean, to me, I feel that with this type of accomplishment, he had a definite strong support within the home to be educated and well-mannered. And I feel that is probably what helped a lot of his success. He just seemed to be an example where he went and studied that, but it seemed he might have something he probably picked up in the house and continued on, something his parents or his family expected out of him, and he was able to do. And so it was easy for him to continue on with it after he gained the confidence to study and learn, and to be an example of what happens when you do study and learn.
Man, he's definitely an example of getting it done for real. Like neurosurgery, oncology, plastic surgery. I mean, the first successful neurosurgical procedure on a fetus inside the womb. Inside the womb.
Yeah. Complicated conditions, yeah.
I mean, do we know how? Do we understand actually? Do y'all understand what we reading, what we speaking, the language that's coming out of my mouth? The first successful neurosurgical procedure on a fetus inside the womb. That means you talking about gifted hands. The brother was able to go into the womb, inside the vajayjay, okay, and work on a brain, a baby brain.
And it's really nothing nowhere in the body or really in humans that neurology is not applicable. So when you coming from the basis of a neuroscience scientist, you have a lot of information about the body in particular, and you have even more depth information about blood work and chemicals and things of that nature within the human body as well, and how it all functions. So
he got to have that.
It's a lot of information.
He got to have all that. He got all that. We want to celebrate you for that, Dr. Ben Carson, because man, that's a lot. And hopefully a young person watching this, or somebody, who 33 right now, who feeling like they want to do something different in their life, man, be inspired. For real. Like, I'm inspired right now, not to go and become a neurosurgeon, but I mean, just the fact, the discipline, just the amount of patience, of knowledge and determination to do these things is unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
True indeed.
Continuing to read, Carson gained national fame among political conservatives after delivering a speech at the 2013 National Prayer Breakfast that was perceived as critical of the policies of then President Barack Obama. Following widespread speculation of a presidential run, Carson officially announced his campaign for the 2016 Republican nomination for president in May of 2015. He performed strongly early in the polls, leading him a considered frontrunner for the nomination during fall of 15, but then he withdrew from the race following a string of disappointing primary results and endorsed current president-elect Donald Trump. Following his victory, President Trump nominated Carson as Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, being confirmed by the United States Senate March 2nd, 2017. Now, we celebrate everybody, man. And one of the things that I know I have been critical on one of our other shows is just like on Cigar Sundays live. Make sure y'all go check that out at Cigar Sundays on DBCHEFTV Streamcast Network. And we live every Sunday, y'all, at 8 p.m. Not every Sunday, but on Sundays at 8 p.m. I made a comment about Dr. Ben Carson. And I understand, like, when you do something now being educated as to his accomplishments in the medical field, I can see now why he wanted to go and do something different. Because sometimes you burn out. You do things for so long and you've already accomplished it. So you want to go and try something new. So I know that in the past, and I still stand firm on saying, with all of that infinite wisdom, he was a professor, and he did that. So I guess in my mind, I was thinking that, like, Dr. Ben should die as a professor, because of his phenomenal works, of everything that he's already done, and what he would be able to teach to other young Black Americans and Americans alike, specifically the young Black Americans, because I think that, like you said earlier, when we were speaking offline, so many people don't know about what we just with the 100 neurosurgical publications and the neurosurgical procedure on a fetus inside a womb, or the separation of conjoined twins, or at age 33, chief of pediatric neurosurgery in the United States, like making history. So many people don't know of those things. They get so bombarded with his presidential political aspirations, and that gets drowned. It drowns out all of his honorary work for neurosurgery. It just drowns out all of that. So I'm saying on the record, like, I ain't know Dr. Ben, Dr. Carson, I ain't know. I had no idea. Like, I needed to do my research. And now that we here to celebrate you, I can stand and say, like, we appreciate you for what you've done. And even your endeavors to try to do things on a political basis, We like that too. So continuing to read, Carson has received numerous honors for his neurosurgery work, including over 60 honorary doctorate degrees and numerous national merit citations. In 2021, he was named by CNN and Time magazine as one of the nation's 20 foremost physicians and scientists, and was selected by the Library of Congress as one of the 89 living legends on its 200th anniversary. And that's why we celebrating you this evening, because you are a living legend. In 2008, Carson was bestowed by the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which is the highest civilian award in the United States. In 2010, he was elected to the National Academy of Medicine, and he was the subject of the 2009 biographical television film Gifted Hands, the Ben Carson story, which we recommend everybody go watch, and it was played by Cuba Gooding Jr., which is a phenomenal picture. Y'all need to go watch that if you haven't seen it. So, early life and education. Carson's parents were Robert Solomon Carson Jr., a World War II U.S. Army veteran, and Sonia Carson. Both from large families in Georgia, Carson's parents met and married while living in rural Tennessee when his mother was 13 and his father was 28. After Robert's completion of military service, they moved from Chattanooga, Tennessee to Detroit, where they lived in a large house in the Indian Village neighborhood. Carson's father, a Baptist minister, worked in a Cadillac automobile plant. His older brother Curtis was born in 49 when his mother was 20. And in 1950, Carson's parents purchased a new 733 square foot single family detached home on Deacon Street in the Boynton neighborhood of Southwest Detroit, where Carson was born on September 18th, 1951. Carson's Detroit public school education began in 1956 at the Fisher School and continued through first, second grades and the first half of third grade, during which the time he was an average student. When Carson was 5 years old, his mother and he moved with his mother. Oh, okay. Pardon me. His mother learned that his father had a prior family and had not divorced his first wife. So this is showing y'all like that Ben Carson came from humble beginnings. Okay. And it's saying right here, when he was 5, his mother learned that, Pops had a whole nother family. And they were still married. So in 59, when he was 8, his parents separated and he moved with his mother and brother to live for 2 years with his mother's Seventh-day Adventist older sister and brother-in-law in the multifamily dwellings in the Dorchester and Roxbury neighborhoods of Boston. In Boston, Carson's mother attempted suicide and had several hospitalizations for depression, and for the first time began working outside the home as a domestic worker, while Carson and his brother attended a 2-classroom school at the Berea Seventh-day Adventist Church, where two teachers taught 8 grades, and the vast majority of the time was spent singing songs and playing games. So this is, I had to apologize, y'all, because sometimes I read a little bit faster than I speak, a whole lot faster than I speak. and I was reading ahead. Sometimes I start reading ahead. But this is a key thing right here when we look at the backgrounds that we come from and the adversities and the things within our households that we have to overcome, the traumas within our household. You know, Dr. Carson and his brother had to attend a 2-classroom school. Okay. And it said there were only 2 teachers that taught 8 grades. And the vast majority of time was spent singing songs and recess. Okay. So this is a key point where we look at a lot of people now say cultivating your children and getting them good study habits and things like that starts early. And this is showing that even early he had all of these, his mother in and out the hospital. You know, you a child and your mother and your mama going in and out the hospital. You don't know if she gonna die. You know, you living with your aunt. You know, not saying that I'm not putting that they weren't being treated well or nothing like that, but you know, nobody is gonna really treat you like your mama and your daddy. You know, when you have loving parents. So you really don't know. Like, I can imagine what Dr. Ben him and his brother was going through, you know, at that time, in their own for their own mental health, you know, with their own depression, their own trauma, being away from their dad, being with their mom, maybe not really understanding the problems and things that adults have that they going through. And then, you know, and then they expected to be children, but you got to develop these habits, these study habits, these work ethics. And man, that's definitely, when you're talking about looking at what he accomplished by 33. You know, I would say Dr. Ben Carson did have a rough start. You know, these beginnings don't sound like anything silver spoon.
Right. That's right.
In 1961, at the age of 10, Carson moved with his mother and brother back to Southwest Detroit, where they lived in a multifamily dwelling in a primarily white neighborhood, Springwells Village, while renting out their house on Deacon Street, which his mother had received in her divorce settlement. Shout out to moms, being an entrepreneur. Knowing I'm not going to sell that, I'm going to cash flow it. When they returned to Detroit public schools, Carson and his brother's academic performance initially lagged far behind their new classmates, having, according to Carson, essentially lost a year of school by attending the small 7-day Adventist school in Boston. But they both improved when their mother limited their time watching TV and required them to read and write book reports on 2 library books per week. There you go. Carson attended the predominantly white Higgins Elementary School for 5th and 6th grades and the predominantly white Wilson Junior High School for the 7th and first half of 8th grade. In 1965, at the age of 13, he moved with his mother and brother back to their house on Deacon Street. He attended the predominantly black Hunter Junior High School for the second half of 8th grade. At the age of 8, Carson dreamed of becoming a missionary doctor, but 5 years later, he aspired to the lucrative lifestyles of psychiatrists portrayed on television. And his brother bought him a subscription to Psychology Today for his 13th birthday. And what I'm guessing Psychology Today was a publication, a medical publication about psychology or something. We would have to actually look into that. I wasn't around. I was still swimming in 65. So high school, by grade 9, the family's financial situation had improved. His mother surprised neighbors by paying cash to buy a new house, or to buy a new Chrysler. And the only government assistance they still relied on was food stamps. Carson attended the predominantly black Southwestern High School for grades 9 through 12, graduating third in his class academically. In high school, he played the euphonium in a band and participated in forensics, public speaking, chess club, and he was a U.S. Army Junior Reserve officer in the ROTC, where he reached his highest rank, cadet colonel. Carson served as a laboratory assistant in the high school's biology, chemistry, and physics school laboratories beginning in grades 10, 11, and 12, respectively, and worked as a biology laboratory assistant at Wayne State University for summer grades between for the summer between grades 11 and 12. In his book Gifted Hands, Carson relates that as a youth, he had a violent temper. As a teenager, he would go after people with rocks and bricks and baseball bats and hammers, Carson told NBC Meet the Press in October 2015. He said he once tried to hit his mother in the head with a hammer over a clothing dispute. While in the 9th grade, he tried to stab a friend who had changed the radio station. Unfortunately, the blade broke in his friend's, well, unfortunately, pardon me. Fortunately, the blade broke in his friend's belt buckle. Carson said the intended victim, whose identity he wants to protect, was a classmate, a friend, or close relative. After this incident, Carson said he began reading Book of Proverbs and applying verses on anger. As a result, he states he never had another problem with his temper. Thank you, Jesus. In his various books at campaign events, he repeated these stories and said he once attacked a schoolmate with a combination lock. 9 friends, classmates, and neighbors who grew up with him told CNN in 2025 they did not remember the anger or the violence as he described. In response, Carson posted on Facebook a 1997 Parade magazine issue in which his mother verified the stabbing incident. He then questioned the extent of the effort CNN had exerted in the investigation. And we just want to highlight this because everybody has something that they deal with. Everybody has something that they have to overcome, whether it's your conditions, socially, or whether you have some temper issues, some anger issues and things like that. It's showing you that this Dr. Ben Carson is someone who dealt with mental health issues as well.
That's true. Anger issues, family issues, everyday issues.
He had trauma as well. And he was able to, overcome those things and go on to do some of the things that we discussed earlier, which we celebrating you for this evening, Dr. Carson. We're going to go ahead and skip to his college. But you know what? No, let's not. Let's go ahead and finish this out. Carson has said that he protected white students in a biology lab after a race riot broke out at his high school in response to the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King in 1968. So that's a big deal. That's a big deal. In college, moving on to college, Dr. Ben Carson's SAT college admission test scores ranked him somewhere in the 90th percentile. That's phenomenal. He wanted to attend college farther away than his brother, who was at the University of Michigan. Carson says he narrowed his college choices to Harvard or Yale, but could only afford the $10 application fee to apply for one. So he decided to apply to Yale after seeing a team from Yale defeat the team from Harvard on the GE College Bowl television show. Carson was accepted by Yale and offered a full scholarship covering tuition, room, and board. In 1973, Carson graduated with a Bachelor's of Arts degree in psychology from Yale with a fairly respectable grade point average, although far from the top of the class. And the thing here is you don't have to be at the top. You just need to be doing something and making sure that you are doing it. Making sure that you stand focused and not getting distracted. Because being at the top isn't always going to be, being at the top early doesn't mean that that's your plateau. If you keep going, you don't know where your top is, you know, and we clearly see that. Dr. Ben Carson is a true example of that. When they say, you know, they talked about in high school how he graduated at the top of the class in high school, but then in college, hey, he went to Yale off of his academics. He got himself there. All right. And then he still graduated. Don't matter if it was at the top of the class or not, because what he did, some people who graduated with him will never do. So know that. And some of them people don't have a person like us celebrating them on this podcast like we doing tonight. Carson does not say in his books whether he received a college student deferment during the Vietnam War. He does say that his older brother, then a student at the University of Michigan, received a low number in the first draft lottery in 1969 and was able to enlist in the Navy for 4 years instead of being drafted, whereas he received a higher number, 333, in the second draft lottery in 1970. Salute to your brother. Thank you for your service. And salute to your dad. Thank you for his service as well. You know, we love our vets. Carson said he would have readily accepted his responsibility to fight had he been drafted, but he identified strongly with the anti-war protesters and the revolutionaries and enthusiastically voted for anti-war Democratic presidential candidate George McGavin in 1972. In his book, America the Beautiful, published in 2012, Carson said the Vietnam War is, in retrospect, not a noble conflict. It brought shame to our nation because of both the outcome and the cause. In the summers following his high school graduation until his second year in medical school, Carson worked at a variety of jobs as a clerk at a payroll office for Ford Motor Company, supervisor of a 6-person crew picking up trash along the highway under a federal jobs program for inner city students, a clerk in the mailroom of the Young Rubicon advertising company, assembling fender parts and inspecting back window levers on assembly line at Chrysler, a crane operator at Senate Steel, and finally a radiology technician taking x-rays at Yale. Carson had a part-time job on campus also as a student police aide. And it's looking like my brother ain't never been scared of no work.
That's true.
In his autobiography, Carson said he's been offered a scholarship to West Point, and it is likely he means he was offered an appointment to the United States Military Academy at West Point. Candidates receive a free education, room and board in exchange for commitment to serve in the military for at least 5 years after graduation. And Carson also said the University of Michigan had offered him a scholarship. His staff later said The described scenario was similar to that of West Point, as he never actually applied for entry to either University of Michigan or the United States Military Academy at West Point. We're going to go down here to medical school right quick. Okay, so Carson, Dr. Ben Carson entered the University of Michigan Medical School in 1973, and at first he struggled academically, doing so poor on his first set of comprehensive exams that his faculty advisor recommended he drop out of medical school or take a reduced academic load and take longer to finish. He said, "Nope, I'm gonna tighten up. I'm gonna challenge myself, and I'm going to adapt and overcome." He continued with the regular academic load, and his grades improved to average on his first year of medical school. By his second year, Carson began to excel academically by seldom attending lectures and instead studying textbooks and lecture notes from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. Carson graduated from the University of Medical School with a medical degree in 1977, and he was elected to the Alpha Omega Alpha Honor Medical Society. Carson was then accepted by the Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine neurosurgery program, where he served 1 year as a surgical intern and 5 years as a neurosurgery resident, completing the final year as a chief resident in 1983. He then spent 1 year, 83 and 84, as the senior register in neurosurgery at the Sir Charles Garner Hospital in Needlands, a suburb of Perth, Western Australia. So he took it overseas with it. He went overseas with it. He went overseas with it. So when you even look at even starting, you know, like, so they say, okay, well, he didn't graduate at the top of the class coming out of Yale. Well, then even when he went to medical school, it still was, you know, some acclimating that he had to get to do. It still was something that he had to figure out. And he still figured it out. He didn't stop. He said, you know what? It don't matter if, you know, if I can't do this or I can't do that right now, because I'm gonna be able to do it. And watch when I get there. I feel you, Dr. Ben Carson. I'm on the same thing right now with the path I'm on in life. Let's continue reading. Medical career. Upon returning to Johns Hopkins in 1984, Carson was appointed to the university's director of pediatric neurosurgery. As a surgeon, he specialized in traumatic brain injuries, brain and spinal cord tumors, achondroplasia, neurosurgical and congenital disorders, craniostenosis, I don't even know, epilepsy, and trigeminal neuralgia. Man, I don't even know those words, but that's what he was doing. It sounds like some pretty you know,
yeah, it's pretty
scientific. It sounds very scientific.
Right.
Right. So while at Johns Hopkins, Carson figured out in the reveal of the hysterectomy, in the revival of the hysterectomy, a drastic surgical procedure in which part or all of one hemisphere of the brain is removed to control severe pediatric epilepsy. It says, encouraged by John M. Freeman, he refined the procedure in the 1980s and performed it many times. In 1987, Carson lead neurosurgeon of was the lead neurosurgeon of a 70-member surgical team that separated the conjoined twins, Patrick and Benjamin Byron, who had been joined at the back of the head. The separation surgery held promise in part because twin boys had separate brains. The Johns Hopkins Children's Center surgical team rehearsed the surgery for weeks, practicing on two dolls secured together by Velcro. Although there were few follow-up stories following the Binder twins' return to Germany 7 months after the operation, both twins were reportedly far from normal 2 years after the procedure, with one in a vegetative state. Neither twin was ever able to talk or care for themselves, and both eventually became wards of the state. So it goes on to say that they passed away, and that the surgery served as a model for similar twin separations, with the procedure being refined in subsequent decades. Carson participated in 4 subsequent high-risk conjoined twins separations, including a 1997 operation on some Zambian twins, Joseph and Luca Banda, which resulted in a normal neurological outcome. 2 sets of twins died, including Iranian twins, and another separation in the death of one twin and survival of other. So you win some, you lose some, but he's the guy that can give you a shot at it.
Yes.
And that's worth celebrating, because how many people do you know that can say, well, we can try.
True indeed.
If you're willing to try.
True indeed. It takes a lot to do anything medically, and for people to be able to live in a healthy way. So especially when you're talking about physically cutting on them and allowing them to re-heal and move forward.
Yeah. So we're gonna close out with Dr. Ben Carson right here. We just gonna talk about some of, we just gonna shout him out right quick. We want to just go to his articles, books, business, relationship, and media posts, because Dr. Ben Carson is still alive. So one of the things is, it's like we give a lot of credit to people who have died, and rightfully so. But I think that we sometimes don't shine enough light on the people who are still alive. And that's what we're trying to do. That's one of our goals here on Soul Food History, is we want to celebrate some of the lives, a lot of the lives, all of them, of the people who are alive, who you can actually see the flowers that they receive. And we're going to help give them their flowers. Outside of, people being human and making mistakes. We don't care about that. We don't care about the mistakes. We're going to learn from it. The observation is the key. You can learn from what somebody else has done. So if you learn from it and you say, okay, well, they did that and that wasn't too wise. I don't want to put myself in that situation. So now you have an example before you have to go jump off the bridge. And that's why we're going to highlight those things too when we get to certain people that we talk about. Y'all going to hear us talk about some of the negative things that we see, that some of these people that we celebrating, some of these Black Americans that we are celebrating, we've seen them overcome. We've seen them endure. But we want to highlight all the positive things, all the things to say, you know what, I can do that. If they had this one thing that they did that was a bad thing, I don't have to add that to my goals. I don't have to add that to my journey, to my path. I can learn from what they did and let that be an example. But it's important that we study the things that they overcame, because we all in America. You know, this was 1951. Dr. Ben Carson was born. So a lot of people today have a lot of excuses and haven't even endured a lot of the things that he had to go through, or people who had to come up in those times. But they got all the excuses, but no work ethic.
Well, to me, that also showed that given the opportunities, you should try to take advantage of them and use the potential that you have access to. And a lot of people may not do that, and a lot of more people may not have opportunities to even attempt that. Sometimes people that are spoke about the least can accomplish a lot and be the support to somebody that does very well. But where would the support come from? The knowledge, the guidance, the motivation to even stay focused. It could come few, far and in between. So when you have a chance to do something positive, recognize, number one, that is an environment that you can grow in, because there's a lot of things that can grow and be done. And then there's people that feel like the environment they're in may not be a good conduit, but you can still grow in those hard environments as well. Maybe not as easy, but there's growth that can be accomplished in any and all environments. But some situations are very, very difficult, and have people believing that the situations are too difficult to accomplish out of. And he's a good example on you can be in difficult situations but still accomplish things and do great things. Because to me, he accomplished once he became accountable and responsible and older for himself. The part that seemed to be hard, which was his younger upbringing, was handled very well by his mother, but no one had full control over how a situation is that you're born into. And that really, can be a part of everyday life for all kinds of people in this country, because we're a diverse melting pot of different people feeling different ways and doing different things. So that's just the way it is. And I think that one thing you can learn from is that you don't want to necessarily look at areas and blame areas without looking at the people that you're involved with and being accountable yourself. I think he's a good example of being accountable, self-accountability.
Absolutely. Dr. Ben Carson is a great example of self-accountability. And we want to salute you, Dr. Ben Carson. We're going to read off a list of your awards and honors, and then we're going to move on to this evening's next honoree. Dr. Ben Carson is a member of the American Academy of Achievement, Alpha Omega Alpha Honor Medical Society, and the Horatio Alger Association of Distinguished Americans. Carson has been awarded 38 honorary doctorate degrees. He's a doctor over doctor, and dozens of national merit citations. He is an emeritus fellow at the emeritus fellow of the Yale Corporation. All right. Detroit Public Schools opened the Dr. Benjamin Carson High School of Science and Medicine for students interested in pursuing healthcare careers. The school is partnering with Detroit Receiving Hospital and Michigan State University. And I think we've read down all of these things, but we're going to go one more time. In 2000, he received the award for the greatest public service benefiting the disadvantaged, an award given out annually by the Jefferson Awards. In 2001, he was elected by the Library of Congress on the occasion of his 200th anniversary to be one of the 89 to earn the Distinguished Library of Congress Living Legend. You are a living legend. 04, He was appointed to serve on the President's Council of Bioethics. 05, Carson was awarded the William E. Simon Prize for his philanthropic leadership. In 06, he received the Spring Iron Medal from the NAACP, their highest honor for outstanding achievement. In 2008, the White House awarded Carson the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the nation's highest civilian honor. In 2008, Ford Theater Society awarded Carson the Ford Theater Lincoln Medal for exemplifying the qualities embodied by President Abraham Lincoln, including courage, integrity, tolerance, equality, and creative expansion through superior achievements. In 08, U.S. News and World Report named Carson as America's best leaders, as one of America's best leaders. In 2010, he was elected to the National Academy of Science Institutes of Medicine, considered one of the highest honors in the fields of health and medicine. In 2012, Carson was the influential Marylander Award recipient from the Daily Record, Baltimore's legal and business newspaper. And in 2014, a poll of Americans conducted by Gallup ranked Carson 6th on the list of the most admired persons. And with that said, we admire you, Dr. Ben Carson, and we salute you, and we thank you for all of your hard work and examples, and we celebrate you right here on Soul Food History.
True indeed.
So, Dr. Ben Carson, what you got for Dr. Ben Carson, God? What you think?
Well, as I spoke earlier, bro, I mean, he accomplished a lot as an individual. He seemed to surround himself with education and utilize his ability to learn, which was a God-given talent. It doesn't always require physical strength to do great things. Doesn't always require sports. Doesn't always require, a lot of bulk. He actually recognized how he could become the person that he wanted to be by utilizing his mind and by studying and learning. So you don't hear about the Nobel Peace Prize, and you don't hear about him receiving so many distinguished honorary awards from around the world. But what you do hear is that the awards he did receive are very, very, very highly acclaimed awards. Anybody just can't receive them. They're not everyday awards. And it doesn't seem as if he was a person that was thriving for awards. See, that's one great thing that I recognized about his timeline. It was continuous, consistent accomplishments and surrounding himself with education and learning experiences, opportunities, and environments. And I think that credits him towards not only wanting to learn more, but to teach more, to be an example on how to learn and grow as a person. And so it seems as if he actually accomplished a lot of things because he loved learning and growing and discovering. And he got recognized for his talents in dealing with those areas and was awarded for that as well. But to me, it seemed like he had a self-love of discovering things and explaining them. And as you can see, it says in his earlier years, in his latter years even, being professors and teaching at distinguished universities. It was like education, once he got involved in it, he really enjoyed it. And he seemed to stay rooted and grounded in educational environments. So we all know going to school, you have to go to school for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you do. You do. Man, so Dr. Ben Carson, one of the things you made a comment, and I I wanted to talk about before we get into Shirley Chisholm. Um, who doesn't have opportunity in America? That's a thing that I always wonder because I traveled around the world and I seen people that don't have opportunity. So I always try to figure out like who doesn't have opportunity here. Like I get the history
Well, see,
of what American history is, but who doesn't have the opportunity? Because like with Ben Carson, what he did was, we saw that Dr. Ben Carson had his own struggles with his family, with his mom and their relations, their life and stuff like that. But we also saw um that his academics, him going to school and they said that it read that his mother did set a standard. She did require him and his brother to study. So I get it where you don't have parents and with like a lot of households, but he had a single parent household too. So, mom had to be at work, you know. So what I'm looking at is like, okay, well, if his mom had to be at work, right? And then there's the other people. Like, can you use that as an excuse anymore? Is that well, I come from a single parent household, so I didn't have as much opportunity as somebody has who has both parents in the house. Is that an excuse? Is that a valid excuse anymore?
well,
Like,
it can be. I know times that it can be because when you're dealing with a society like today, um, I know in the past people will feel like it shouldn't really be a factor. But when you're looking at it from a perspective of a young person who is expected to accomplish, first thing you have to recognize about society is they have things called schedules, timelines, expectations. So if you notice, Dr. Carson had expectations on him. I mean, at a young age, that he said, it was stated he was a grade behind in school. Okay. So that is an expected thing that's placed upon all people in society, meaning that you are expected to accomplish a certain amount of things, child or not, by a certain time. You are expected to have an understanding on what college you're going to go to by the time you graduate from high school. These are expected things that exist in society. And going back to your question, is the opportunity available for everybody? Some of them are able to get within that time frame to catch those opportunities that are time sensitive. Not everybody's circumstances will allow them to line up or align with a time sensitive situation. That's in regards to young mothers, young pregnancy, things of that nature, where the mother may come out of school for a year or two before she returned to school, but she's not the same age in a different grade. And so it just affects them and how they lead on, what other opportunities they get. Yes, they still have opportunities. Yes, they
okay,
still
so
have potential.
that's my question though, because that was my question, because it's like even if you hit a roadblock, because that's what that sounds like. Okay, I got pregnant young, right? This is the young lady saying she got pregnant young, right? Okay, but then she was still determined to not let getting pregnant young stop her from whatever it is she aspired to do.
Right.
So that means that she sought out the opportunities, but she had a plan. She had a goal, and then you learn things along the way. It's just like with DB Chef TV. Like we learning things along the way. It's not just perfect from inception, right?
No.
And I don't think anything is perfect from inception. you
Right.
know so it has to be shaped, crafted, nurtured, right? And but there's opportunity. There's always opportunity. That was the main thing why I wanted to bring that point up, because I hear that so much, like it's not opportunity, and it's like it is opportunity, but
Yeah.
are you creating any opportunity for yourself?
Well, first of all, you gotta have a good understanding on what opportunities are they for real available, and you may only be getting a diluted version of the list of opportunities that may truly be available. It could be a shorter list, it could be a longer list actually, but misinformation and disinformation. I have people thinking they don't have no opportunities, and then have people thinking they got more opportunities when they actually have. So you definitely want to try to line up with looking at where you're listening to them and the source of where you're getting information from. Try to deal with as many professional people as you can in that area, because every professional may not tell you right. You would expect them to, but that's why they say get second opinions. Get second opinions and be sure. That's doing your due diligence, not just taking everything at face value and running with it just because it was said. So it's a lot of things you got to be aware of. But growing up from being a young person, you're just looking to be knowledgeable, and some of us have an understanding of character, emotional, and intelligence wit, but some of us are craftier than others at a young age and at an older age. So we just have
people learn at different speeds. I get that.
People learn at different speeds and in different ways. And I felt that Mr. Carson may have been one person who had the ability to separate himself from the violent tendencies, perspective, or influence that was around him, and lean and surround himself with education. And that's why I said that's a great thing to do. And a lot of people may look to do that. The opportunity to do that with the knife blade breaking in the belt buckle, I mean, that was his opportunity that, was given to him, in a divine way. And that's what I was saying. Situations like that could lead to a lot more limited opportunities where Dr. Carson would not have been the same Dr. Carson. Had that,
that's a possibility.
It's a definite possibility. It's a definite possibility, because life is real. Life is real like that.
But that didn't happen. That didn't happen.
That didn't happen. But that opportunity and that instance is real.
But this is okay. So this is where I'm gonna counter that though, Lucy, because we're gonna get to. But I like this though. This is where I'm gonna counter that though, because that's the what if, right? That's the what if, and that what if never happened. But
it's actually what did happen. The knife did break.
No. What you just said before was if the knife, if it hadn't been a belt buckle, right?
See, if
it hadn't been a belt buckle, then Dr. Ben may not have been Dr. Ben, right?
Right.
Okay, but what I'm saying is that he was already exemplifying an ability to overcome things. He was already looking for a solution to fix things. Like he was already problem solving oriented as a person. So what I'm saying is like I've seen brothers and sisters go through things like people be on drugs and then get off drugs and go be phenomenal people. I've seen people sell drugs and go to prison and come home and do huge things, business things, So I'm still not going to give Dr. Ben Carson, respectfully, I'm still not going to give Dr. Ben Carson the what if he wouldn't have, because I truly believe that from what he has exemplified, even within his story, that he still would have overcome even that. Because when people say, when you have your friends around you and people say, I don't recall those things about a person, that means that this wasn't you all the time.
Right, and that's a good point as well, meaning that, or like you said, not all the time, or was it the side of him that they saw? And his mother confirmed it,
But
and
that's what I'm
basically what
saying.
it
It's
come
not
down
all
to,
the
some
time.
people know you better.
Yeah, like
Right,
it's
but
a
some people know you better than others.
but that comes with it's a time and a place for everything, right? So when you with your
With
so
true
when you
indeed,
so when you
indeed.
with your boys, and you shooting the shit and y'all doing this and that, that's one thing. But when you go to school, then you in the classroom and you're supposed to be focused on what the goal is in that environment. So that lets me know that a person has the ability to discern, and they know that it's a time and a place for everything. It's a right and a wrong. So that is not a person that's thinking, I'm me everywhere. I'm gonna be me everywhere. You know, like, take me as I am. I'm if I'm rude and obnoxious in private, I'm gonna be rude and obnoxious in person, and I'm gonna be rude and obnoxious in every setting that I go to. It doesn't matter. I don't know how to act. I'm acting like I want to act. And either you have to accept me in this space, or you know I'm not for this space. So when people, and I know people who are like that, I know people who they know better, but they don't, they aren't too successful, because nobody wants to be around them. And when nobody wants to be around you, then how do you get things done? You're pretty much by yourself a lot, right? So that's counterproductive.
Well, yeah, that is counterproductive.
Yeah, that's counterproductive.
Well,
Because I mean,
my mother taught me about that when I was real young, and that was really before I got out the house. My mother told me stuff in a way where I fully understood it would be advantageous to listen to her. And one of those things she said is related to what you're saying was, learn how to be with yourself before you have to learn how to be by yourself. And, she told me that I'm 4 or 5 years old. Of course, I was in my room on punishment by myself when she said it.
right?
But being in the bedroom in the house on punishment in your room and learning that lesson is not the same as learning it in a cell block at looking at 20 to 30 years.
Yeah.
So a lot of people have to learn. Mr. Carson probably was an exemplary of self-control in a lot of ways. And we all got to show that we're going to be having forms of self-control with ourselves if we plan on accomplishing anything in life. It's going to be needed throughout life. It's going to be needed not only at a younger age, but at an older age too. And so it's just a part of doing stuff and staying focused, because distractions, reasons, excuses, they're going to exist, but staying focused and determined to see things through and persevere could add up to you doing things that other people will consider great, even if you don't. But you will find yourself enjoying your life because you're committed to something, and you're obviously following through on something that's healthy and happy, that's going to make you feel good. So why not? Why not do it? And I think that's what Mr. Carson had determined, that he had a world that he could go in to be himself, but yet still learn how to do and be other things, and discovering and how to be an exemplary person in the medical field. I think it's something that he liked and enjoyed, and it was a way to help people outside of himself. So you look at his works, it don't seem like most of his works was selfish works when you're talking about the medical profession or a government position in housing. It's not really a lot of self-centered accomplishment like running miles or being an athlete. You know what I mean? In that sense. So I think he just really is a caring person, and being with the right parents raised the right way is made him a better person.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. Shout out to Dr. Ben Carson. We salute you as one of our as soul food history. You know, we want to induct you into the Soul Food History Hall of Fame, you know, and people should be learning about who you are while you're alive and giving you your flowers while you're alive, for real. Our next honoree tonight is Miss the Honorable Shirley Chisholm. And we're going to get into Miss Shirley Chisholm this evening. Let's go ahead and bring her up. Get her on the stage right here. And we have Miss Shirley Anita Chisholm, born November 30th, 1924. Transition January 2005. May she rest in power and peace. Was an American politician who in 1968 became the first Black woman to be elected to the United States Congress. The first. Okay. So it wasn't no question with Shirley Chisholm whether she was Black or any of this other stuff that we saw in this past election, which was crazy. But continuing on, Chisholm represented New York's 12th congressional district, a district centered in Bedford-Stuyvesant, Brooklyn, for 7 terms from 1969 to 1983. In 1972, she became the first Black candidate for a major party nomination for the President of the United States and the first woman to run for the Democratic Party's presidential nomination. Now, Shirley Chisholm was the first woman to run for the nomination. All right. Throughout her career, she was known for taking a resolute stand against economic, social, and political injustices, as well as being a strong supporter of Black civil rights and women's rights. Born in Brooklyn, New York, she spent ages 5 through 9 in Barbados, and she always considered herself a Barbadian American. Shout out to Rihanna. She excelled at school and earned her college degree in the United States. She started working in early childhood education, and she became involved in the local Democratic Party politics in 1950. In 1964, overcoming some resistance because she was a woman, she was elected to the New York State Assembly. 4 years later, she was elected to Congress, where she led the expansion of food and nutrition programs for the poor and rose to party leadership. She retired from Congress in 1983 and taught at Mount Holyoke College. Holyoke. Yeah, I'm gonna say Holyoke. That's what I'm gonna say. I may be pronouncing that wrong. While continuing her political organizing. All right. Well, she retired in 1983 and taught at Mount Holyoke College while continuing her political organizing. Although nominated for the ambassadorship to Jamaica in 1993, health issues caused her to withdraw. In 2015, Chisholm was posthumously awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom. So 10 years later, after she died, she got the Presidential Medal of Freedom. I guess it was better late than never. Let's talk about some of her early life and education. But don't worry about it, Miss Chisholm, because we got you today. We celebrating you today. and everything, and all of your hard works and all of your contributions, your struggle, your glory, everything. We appreciate you. We value, we salute you. We celebrate you. We honor you. We appreciate you. Shirley Anita St. Hill was born to immigrant parents on November 30, 1924, in Brooklyn, New York. She was of Afro-Guyanese and Afro-Barbadian descent. If y'all don't know where Guyana is, it is located next to, I want to say, Colombia and Venezuela. It's a country in South America, northeastern South America. She had 3 younger sisters, 2 born within 3 years of her and 1 later. Her father, Charles Christopher St. Hill, was born in British Guyana before moving to Barbados. He also arrived in New York City via Antigua, Cuba, in 1923. Her mother, Ruby Seal, was born in Christchurch, Barbados, and arrived in New York City in 1921. Charles St. Hill her dad was a laborer who worked in a factory that made burlap bags as a baker's helper. Ruby St. Hill was a seamstress and a domestic worker who experienced the difficulty of working outside the home while simultaneously raising her children. So once again, we looked at Dr. Ben Carson's parents. We looking at Shirley Chisholm's parents. We looking at, these not rich. They not coming from no rich background. They not coming. It ain't no silver spoons. These are people who are determined to do the things that they set out to do, and they make a plan and they execute. And this is one of the things, like when we was talking about earlier, like looking for opportunities and thinking that people don't have opportunities. I'm saying the opportunity is here. I'm saying, what do you want to do? And are you willing to do the work to accomplish it? Or is it just easier to make an excuse and say, you know what, I can't do this because of this, or I can't do this, when you really don't want to do it? If you really don't want to do it, that's the thing that people need to be more honest with, is that, it looks like too much work, or no, I'm not up to do that. So shout out to the people that we celebrating tonight, to these Black Americans that we are celebrating this evening, because I don't see that in their DNA. I don't see excuses, no matter what kind it is, whether it's a mental health or whether it's a physical, or I come from this background. Her dad made burlap bags. How much could you think that he had made? What was his salary making burlap bags as a baker's helper? He probably was able to take a lot of bread home, that didn't sell. But how much money do you think that he was really able to make off that? Trying to raise, how many babies they had? 2 born within 3 years and 1 later. So it's her and it's 4 siblings. It's 4 of them.
But I've seen a lot of situations where the sustenance of love, carries over and replaces things that people may not have. Because when your life is
monetarily, right? Yeah.
Monetarily and physically. Because when your life is full of love, your life and your day is going to be lovely, regardless of whether you have 3 things or 20. You're having a lovely day, and you're going to have a lovely day with lovely people. And we may only have 1 thing today, but this is the one thing that we're going to enjoy and continue to love and live amongst each other with. And so it doesn't necessarily require having 10, 20, 30 things to be happy. And a lot of people who are truly happy within themselves do not need a lot of things to be happy. Do not need a lot of things to be motivated. Do not need a lot of things or support to do right, because that shows character when you can do things without a crowd behind you. You know, when you don't have a mascot or cheerleaders and you can still do great things or right things. That shows your character. And can't nobody else show that but you.
I get that. We talking about our parents though. You know, your parents are your biggest cheerleaders. You know, they're your biggest, criticizers, helpers, inspiration, motivators, and the perspective I'm coming from is that we see when we talk about her parents, the humble beginnings, her dad, who was a laborer, right, and who worked in a factory that made bags, and as a baker's helper. Like, he had two jobs. He worked in the factory, and then he worked at the bakery too. Okay, and then mom's was a seamstress, all right, and a domestic worker. So when you look at this, we see two parents in the household, but we still see that they had to be somewhere. So like when you spending time with two jobs, you're not spending a lot of time at ballet and soccer and piano and because you got to go and pay for this stuff, karate. You get it? So the child has to have some form of self-determination on their own, some form of self-discipline. It has to be in you, even though it has to be cultivated. It's at a certain time though. After a while, your parents say you have to do this. You get grown. You're like, nah, I don't really have to do that. I'm not going to do that. But if you have a desire for it, you have a love for it, and you say, you know what, yeah, I'm gonna focus on this, then you already have invested yourself into it. If you can see, like, you know what, possibly I can use this. I want to go to college. Look at our lifestyle. You can see other people. Shirley Chisholm was born in 1924. Okay, so I'm sure that she saw plenty of other people with money, that they didn't have. If she was in Brooklyn, then there was a Manhattan, there was a Fifth Avenue, there was a Park Avenue where they didn't live. So at some point in time, you have to say, you know what, I want to reach that. I want to get to that. How do I do it? What do I have to do in this place to get there? How do I reach that? What work do I have to do? What do I have to learn? And that's something that I'm saying that, like, that should be celebrated and noted, should be pointed out, that, like, for anybody that's a Black American that's saying that, well, I come from this background, or that is an excuse. Because there are people who have done it before, and there are people that continue to do it.
And that's what I like about Miss Chisholm statement, where she was speaking about her granny, and she was speaking on how her granny gave her strength, dignity, and love. And she learned that at an early age she was somebody. And she didn't name because of the Cadillac or the nice outfit. She didn't say because we had great furniture and nice china. No, she said love, dignity, and strength. All of those are spiritual. And she got them from her grandma. And that are the things that anyone can grasp onto and use as a pillar to grow and be a great person. And it doesn't cost money. And some people can recognize those things and how much happiness they bring to you, despite what you have physically. And it makes a difference. It makes a difference. And I think she wanted to make sure that her grandmother teaching her that she was somebody meant that whether she had or not, she wasn't going to believe she wasn't somebody because her grandmother already told her she was, based on how she felt and how she carried herself, her character. And I think that stands very, very strong. That stands very, very strong. A person with that know that they're worth something, no matter whether others see it in them or not. And that might have led to her wanting to be a voice for people she felt that may not had a voice, or that she could be a voice for and relate to.
I mean, well, she was born in 1924, so she's seen it all happen.
That's right.
You know, I mean, she was in 63, 60, she was already 40 years old.
That's right.
You know, so I mean, she was a grown ass woman. And what she says is that that full statement that you the part you left out was that to complete it. As a consequence, in November 1929, when Shirley turned 5, she and her 2 sisters were sent to Barbados on the MS Volcana to live with their maternal grandmother, Emmeline Seal. Shirley later said that Granny gave me strength, dignity, and love. I learned that from an early age that I was somebody, and I didn't need the Black Revolution to teach me that.
Now that's powerful, because she learned that she was somebody not with the basis of violence or anger. She learned that she was somebody based on love and nurturing.
Or to fight for equality.
And
right?
She
fight for equality.
And she used that. And she used that to defend herself and the love that grew within her. Yeah, she used it to defend what she loved.
Yeah, because I ain't see a revolution. I haven't seen a revolution.
But one thing about her that is unique is that you listen to time that she existed and were doing her works, and it was during a revolutionary time that she was raised and she grew up for Black people, because 1924 preceded Martin Luther King and
way before
Malcolm X.
Yeah,
but she actually had a position in the government fighting for her people and what she cared for.
No, she didn't. No. This is real early, when she was only 5 or 6 years old, 10 years old.
No, I'm saying that in her lifetime, she had a position in the government.
Yeah, she did. She was the first
people. Okay, that's all I'm saying.
She was the first Black woman elected to the Senate.
Okay, so with that being said, the love that she had wasn't something she just used in her neighborhood. No, it was something that she used in her job, even though the job was a government job. She did not lose the love or the dignity and respect for herself and her people. She continually keep that no matter what she went through or came through. And I think that's powerful. That's powerful because it calls her to defend herself, but it might have caused her to defend herself and us as a people in a loving way.
I get that. I get what you're saying. I agree with that. So it's another side of the coin, where some people would look at that like, well, she went to go work for the government. So is that really, like the way you articulated it, saying that she still had a love for the people, understanding that, the things that the government had from American history had inflicted on the Black people. So, on Black Americans, how legislation made it so difficult for Black people to, during that time, to advance socially, monetarily, and so many other ways. So, but we celebrating her tonight, though, because being the first. But there is another side of that coin. There is another argument that can be had from a different perspective, you know, than to just say that she took that same fight to Congress, because because I do salute Shirley Chisholm, because I like to see we have it's a new move, it's not a fairly new thing, but it is like within the last maybe 20 years. It's called Blacks in Government, big. And that's a fairly new thing. That's only 20, we in 2024, right? So it's only 20 years old that this big thing has been a thing that is where Black people in government, Black Americans in government, have felt comfortable enough to get together and basically segregate themselves amongst amongst the government uh offices, and then come together collectively to say, hey, we are this group, and we're going to facilitate trying to help other Blacks Americans get employment, and know about the their rights and benefits, and all of the progresses and things like that, and government functions and opportunities. So it is one of them things where it's like, I like it. I like the part where she says, I didn't need the Black Revolution to teach me that. However, her parents did send her to Barbados in 1920, in a very, very racially divided America in the 20s and 30s. And what they did was they put her in an environment. If you are unaware, I believe the Barbados was colonized by the British, but it's a lot more Black people in positions of authority and governance and reverence, so it wasn't in Barbados. If you look at like the Bahamas, Barbados, places like that, maybe even Trinidad, Jamaica, you see places that historically that are Black countries. All right, you see their political structures, their government offices, and things like that, where it's not the first time something is happening. It's not the first time that you seeing a Black person elected to something, because that's what the population is the majority of. It's only here in America where we have these things, like if this whole race thing of Black, white, Hispanic, checking the box, if this whole checking the box thing never, then we would just be talking about American success. It wouldn't really be a need to put a Black on it. But because we do this here, because this is a part of American culture, where you have to identify as something. All right, then. And for so long, there was a lack of inclusivity based on the policies, based on American history. All right. That's why we could get in when was she appointed? We could we say in when was this? In 72? No, that was when she ran. That was when she was running for president. But in 68? So in 68, she was the first Black woman to be elected to the Congress in 68.
And then it says that she was known for, strong supporter of Black civil rights and women's rights. She spoke against political injustices. Now, she did that without no crowd or no crew. And so I take it as she really had that much love within herself to stand in that form of fashion, even though there were no other Black women, in the situation. So I think that's just something that spoke for humanitarian rights and international humanitarian rights, which people started recognizing and are still recognizing, and how important it is, because it seems to have a lot of common sense with it at the end of the day.
Okay, so she returned to the United States, continuing to read on. She returned to the United States in 1934, arriving in New York on May 19. And as a result of her time in Barbados, Miss Chisholm spoke with a West Indian accent throughout her life. In her 1970 autobiography, Unbought and Unbossed, she wrote, "Years later, I would know what an important gift my parents had given me by seeing to that I had my early education in the strict traditional British style schools of Barbados. If I speak and write easily now, that early education is the main reason. If I speak and write easily now, that early education is the main reason." In addition, she belonged to the Quaker Brethren sect found in the West Indies, and religion became important to her. However, later in life, she attended, services at the Methodist Church. And as a result, her time on the island, and despite her U.S. birth, she always would consider herself a Barbadian American. So we're going to skip a little bit and go to, she earned her Bachelor's of Arts from Brooklyn College in 1946, majoring in sociology and minoring in Spanish, a language that she would employ at times during her political career. She won prizes for her debating skills and graduated cum laude. During her time at Brooklyn College, she was a member of the Delta Sigma Theta sorority and the Harriet Tubman Society. As a member of the Harriet Tubman Society, she advocated for inclusion, specifically in terms of the integration of Black soldiers in the military during World War II, the addition of courses that focused on African American history, and the involvement of more women in student government. However, this was not her first introduction to activism or politics. Growing up, she was surrounded by politics as her father was an avid supporter of Marcus Garvey and a dedicated supporter of the rights of trade union members. Shout out A. Philip Randolph. They probably ran across each other. She saw her community advocate for its rights as she witnessed the Barbadian workers and anti-colonial independence movement. She met Conrad O. Chisholm in the late 40s. He had migrated to the United States from Jamaica in 46. He later became a private investigator who specialized in negligent-based lawsuits. They married in 49 in a large West Indian-style wedding. She subsequently lost 2 children, and the couple will have no children, although in the view of the scholar Julie Gallagher, it is possible that her career goals played a role in the outcome as well. That's not their business. After graduating college, Chisholm began working as a teacher's aide at Mount Calvary Child Care School in Harlem. She would work at the Center for Teaching Role from 1946 to 1953. Meanwhile, she was furthering her education, attending classes at night, and earning her Master's of Arts in Childhood Education from Teachers College of Columbia University. So this is showing once again where a person is determined to do something. So she says, okay, well, I'm gonna go to school that night. I gotta work in the day, so I can, so I can sustain, so I can, have money, so I can pay my bills, so I can do the things I like. But then I also have a goal. I also am trying to educate myself more because I'm not done. So that's what she did. So take note of that, y'all. Everybody out there talking about, things are hard or it's tough, or, it's if you want it bad enough, you're going to do what you need to do to get it. And that's the example. That's one of the reasons why we celebrating Miss Shirley Chisholm this evening. We're going to go into her early career just a little bit, and then we're going to skip through because I don't want to take up too much time. We want to get into Byron Allen. From 1953 to 1954, she was director of the Friend in Need Nursery located in Brownsville, Brooklyn. From then, 1954 to 59, she was director of Hamilton Madison Child Care Center located in Lower Manhattan. At the latter, there were 130 children between the ages of 3 and 7 and 24 employees that she had under her supervision. From 1959 to 1964, she was an educational consultant for the Division of Daycare in New York's Bureau of Child Welfare. There, she was in charge of supervising 10 daycare centers as well as starting up new ones. She became an authority on early education and child welfare issues. Chisholm entered the world of politics in 1953, where she joined Wesley Mack Holder's effort to elect Louis Flagg Jr. to the bench as the first black judge in Brooklyn. The Flagg election group later transferred into the Bedford-Stuyvesant Political League, BSPL. The BSPL pushed candidates to support civil rights, fought against radical discrimination in housing, and sought to improve economic opportunities and services in Brooklyn. Chisholm eventually left the group around 58 after clashing with Holder over Chisholm's push to give female members of the group more input in decision making. She also worked as a volunteer for white-dominated political clubs in Brooklyn, like the Brooklyn Democratic Club and the League of Women Voters. With the Political League, she was part of the committee that chose the recipients of its annual Brotherhood Award. She also was a representative of the Brooklyn branch of the National Association of College Women. Furthermore, with political organizations that she joined, Chisholm sought to make meaningful changes to the structure and makeup of the organization, specifically the Brooklyn Democratic Club, which resulted in her being able to recruit more people of color into the 17th District Club and thus the local politics. In 1960, Chisholm joined a new organization, the Unity Democratic Club, UDC, led by former Flagg campaign members Thomas R. Jones. The UDC's membership was mostly middle class, racially integrated, and included women in leadership positions. Chisholm campaigned for Jones, who lost the election for an assembly seat in 1960, but ran again 2 years later and won, becoming Brooklyn's second black assemblyman. So we want to talk about her as a state legislator. So after Jones accepted a judicial appointment rather than seeking re-election, Chisholm sought to run for his seat in the New York State Assembly in 1964. All right. Chisholm faced resistance based on her sex, with the UDC hesitant to support a female candidate. Chisholm chose to appeal directly to women, including using her role as Brooklyn branch president of Key Women in America to mobilize female voters. Chisholm won the Democratic Party in June 1964. She then won a seat in December with over 18,000 votes over Republican and liberal candidates, neither of whom received more than 1,900 votes. Chisholm was a member of the New York State Assembly from 1965 to 1968, sitting in the 175th, 176th, 177th New York State legislatures. By May 1965, she had already been honored in a Salute to Women Doers affair in New York. Salute to women doers. Salute to all the women doers out there. Okay? All the women that's getting up, doing something, saying, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to make no excuses. Salute to all you powerful sisters. We love y'all. Okay? Keep doing what you're doing. And salute to the women doers, because you a doer, a pursuer of greatness. Like Miss Shirley Chisholm, we celebrate you. One of her early activities in the assembly was to argue against the state's literacy test requiring English, holding that just because a person functions better in his native language is no sign a person is literate. And this is something that's key right here. We're still dealing with this today. And I always say this, that's what we do Cigar Sundays for. Check us out Sundays at 8 p.m. on Cigar Sundays on YouTube, where we go over words, because just because you know some words, and in American culture, what we have done is we have taken words and given them meaning, and we don't operate the words by their definition. We don't utilize the words or use the words according to their definition. We give them meanings. And when you do that, you are illiterate because you're not using the words correctly. So whether a person thinks, oh, I could read, I'm fine. Just because you can read does not mean that you are not illiterate. Okay? It is about complete understanding. So what she's saying right here is just because a person functions better in his native language is no sign a person is illiterate. And what they're saying is just like, hey, just because you think you can read or just because you know these words, if you're not using them correctly, then, that's damaging. But I guess when society, everybody else gets on the same page that word means the same thing, and we just negate definitions, then who knows? But you can still know how to read and be illiterate. By continuing to read, by 1966, she was a leader in a push by statewide council of elected Negro Democrats for black representation on key committees in the assembly. Her successes in the legislature, including getting unemployment benefits extended to domestic workers. She also sponsored the introduction of SEEK program, Search for Education, Elevation, and Knowledge, to the state, which provided disadvantaged students with the chance to enter college while receiving intensive remedial education. In 1968, she was elected as the Democratic National Committee woman for New York State. Now, we're going to talk about her in the House of Representatives. In 1968, Chisholm ran for the U.S. House of Representatives for New York's 12th Congressional District, which, as a part of a court-mandated reappointment plan, had been significantly redrawn to focus on Bedford-Stuyvesant and was thus expected to result in Brooklyn's first black member of Congress. Adam Clayton Powell Jr. in 1945 became the first black member of Congress from New York as a whole. As a result of the redawning, the white incumbent from the former 12th Representative Edna Kelly sought re-election in a different district. Chisholm announced her candidacy around January 1968 and established some early organizational support. Her campaign slogan was, "Unbought and unbossed." In the June 18 Democratic primary, Chisholm defeated two other black opponents, Senator William Thompson and labor official Dolly Robertson. In the general election, she staged an upset victory over James Farmer, the former director of Congress of Racial Equality, who was running as a Liberal Party candidate with Republican support, winning by approximately 2-to-1 margin. Chisholm thereby became the first black woman elected to Congress, and she was the only woman in the first year class that year. Salute to her. Salute to Shirley Chisholm. That's what we doing. We want to celebrate you. So now we're just going to talk about some of her things that she did real quick. In 1971, she served as the founding member of both the Congressional Black Caucus and the National Women's Political Caucus. All right. In 1971, Chisholm was one of the 74 who co-sponsored 74 U.S. representatives to co-sponsor the House version of the Health Security Act, a bipartisan universal health care bill that supported creation of government health insurance program to cover every person in America. All right. Okay, so that got passed. I'm not going to talk about stuff that got introduced that didn't get passed, because that's just I wish it would happen, but the political process doesn't allow it to manifest. So, like I said, we get credit for successes. We don't get, you know, um, we salute good tries, but we like wins. So, I had a conversation with somebody one time, and they said that they had a protest, and I asked them, um, was it successful? And they replied yes. So I said, oh, the legislation got approved, like what you were protesting for. Congress actually heard it. They actually made a bill and they passed it. And they was like, no. I said, so you're just saying the event was successful, just the event. So you were able to go have a protest, get a what do you call that? What do you call that thing? You get the permit, because there is no freedom to assemble. If you go and assemble and you don't have a permit, then you're gonna get locked up, for trespassing or loitering or whatever the case may be. So you have an event, and yeah, you had the event, but nothing came from it. So I don't look at that as success. I look at, if you go do something and you execute and you get a win, that's a success. I don't look at just going and throwing a party or just saying we did something to go do something. They saw us. That's not a win to me, because people go and do stuff like that to get locked up on purpose. So, we want to encourage people to focus on wins, not just focus on photo ops, because that's what I call that stuff. I call that stuff photo ops. Let's talk about 1972, Miss Chisholm's presidential campaign run. Chisholm began exploring her candidacy in July 1971 and formally announced her presidential bid on January 25, 1972 in a Baptist church in her district in Brooklyn. There she called for bloodless revolution. At the forthcoming Democratic nominating convention for the 1972 U.S. presidential election, Chisholm became the first American to run for a major party nomination for president of the United States, making her also the first woman ever to run for a Democratic Party's presidential nomination. U.S. Senator Margaret Chase Smith, having previously run for the 1964 Republican presidential nomination, and her presidential announcement, Chisholm described herself as representative of the people and offered a new articulation of American identity. I am not a candidate of Black America, although I am Black and proud. I am not a candidate of the women's movement of this country, although I am a woman and equally proud of that. I am a candidate of the people, and my presence before you symbolizes a new era in American political history. So I salute Shirley Chisholm for a few things, because she says, I am not a candidate of Black America, although I am Black and proud. I'm not a candidate of the women's movement of this country, although I am a woman and equally proud of that. It goes back to what you were saying earlier about Miss Chisholm, Lucci, was that she did take her desire to try to do some good, and a love for her people. She did have that in mind in her pursuit for her political objectives, but a lot of people, I could tell you, in 72, a lot of, they wasn't feeling that, bro. I could tell you a lot of people wasn't feeling that. I wasn't even around in 72. I was still swimming in 72. But just to hear these words, I'm not a candidate of Black America, although I am Black and proud. Like, there's a level of consciousness that you have to understand her language here.
Yeah, she was speaking in a lot more conscious language than most people were thinking, because they had labeled fighting for rights and being a voice to characteristics and what you resemble or your classification. She's basically saying, what are we doing when we're approaching it based on our argument, but not based on the fact that it exists and should be a right for any decent human being. And there's a difference between saying, I'm going to give you this opportunity because you're black, or I'm going to give you this opportunity because you're a woman, and then being told you got this opportunity because you deserve it or earn it. That's more or less
qualified, right? Yeah.
Right. That's what she was focused on. Like, don't try to put me in the middle of a political conflict because I'm speaking about doing better and doing right. And it seemed as if a lot of people feel like it must be a conflict or some type of turmoil for a person to want to recognize something or to stand for something. It's not really because they have hatred in them or anger or violence in them. It's because they really believe in standing for what's right, not because they're mad. And, you know, some people want people to rally with anger or emotions or a certain type of response, you know, to get them to respond according to the agenda that they may have. But you got people like Ms. Chisholm, who was very well accomplished and very well understood that we're talking about basic human rights for basic human things. And the fact that I am who I am don't take away the fact of the rights that she's talking about and how much it covers abroad. So she was a lot more, you know, she was more, you know, advanced probably, you know, than a lot of people were thinking. And you got to understand her position. She had an obligation as part of her job to have a mindset that I think would be fruitful and futuristic. And maybe people want her to be a voice for a fight, but she didn't want to be used as a puppet or war. She just wanted to be respected for what she stood for.
Yeah, and that was her naivety.
Yep.
That was her naivety because you can't in 1972, you know, what was 6 years, 8 years out of the Civil Rights Act.
Yeah, 9.
You know, 72 from 4, 12 from 4 is 8.
But that's
so,
but
you know, so
what she's saying
so you're
now,
not even a decade. You're not even a decade away from the civil rights. You know, where black people just getting the right to vote.
Right, but take into consideration what you just said, the civil rights situation, 1963, and black people having the right to vote. And then you look at it today in 2025 and say, what has that argument got black people other than the ability to be seen, the ability to be heard, other than the voice? What have black people won based on that 1970 argument? Let's break that down. And then you say the opportunities are still here. Those are the same opportunities Ms. Chisholm used before then. So let's just break this down. What did the 1970 angry argument win black people?
The 1970s angry arguments.
Yeah, what did they win?
I mean, I don't know what was won, because like I said, like I still wasn't here yet. I still was swimming, and looking at it now, you know, I always say, you know, like for one, on Sick Out Sundays, I always say, and then even in my own personal opinion, like if you're not trying to, if you know, freedom is not, and I didn't come up with it, you know, freedom is not given, it's won. So if you're not willing to die for it, then, you know, I don't get what the angry stuff is about.
And I don't understand why you will fight for something that you already have. If you truly have freedom, who are you fighting to get it if you have it? Which one is it now? Do you have it or not have it? So if a person is out there fighting for something that they already have, it makes me wonder if they truly understand what they have.
I mean, and
I was born around that time. And the only thing I remember actually as a child being born around that time was like how long were black people rioting and actually possibly getting in trouble from Martin Luther King getting killed.
Well, I have to say this. I have to say this, in all fairness, like because I wasn't born in this era, I didn't go to the back of the bus. I didn't go to the back door. I didn't have to deal with these with Jim Crow things.
Me neither.
Like that. All of the people in all of her peers had to deal with.
And that's what I was saying. See, I was born when those signs and things was up. And me and my family still went in the front doors. We did not go in the colored here sign doors. See, this was something that certain colored people did then. Other people that had a mindset did not go in those doors because those signs said for color. And it had a front door on the same building. Like when I was born, we went in the front doors. We spent the same cash everybody else spent. We had no reason to feel like those signs were for us, even though we knew what they was referring to. It's like, do you want to think to fight and argue and deal with them? Or are you really truly living your own life within your own self? That's what that comes down to. You don't really have to even go to the store, let alone going to the back.
I don't know about all that, but I will
you know about freedom. But you know about freedom, right? And you
no.
You don't know about freedom?
No, because
you haven't. Hold on. Let me ask you a question. You don't make the ability to do what you want every day. You don't have who tells you what to do.
But this is the thing. Though.
No, hold on. Let me ask you that question, my brother. Do you make your decision on what you're gonna do every day, or do somebody tell you?
I make my decisions.
Okay, that's freedom.
Okay, that is a freedom, right?
That's right.
Okay, that is a freedom.
Right.
But when we say that's not the same freedom as what they're talking about, as when you talking about as correlated to civil rights and black people in the struggle.
Hold on.
That's not the same freedom. Like,
you may not feel that, but let me explain this to you.
It's about I think it's about 50 million other, people that look like me that have that same sentiment.
Well, that may be what they're thinking, like you said, but maybe it's 50 million people that wasn't born the same time I was and experienced what I did. Maybe y'all younger than me. Maybe y'all older. I don't know.
People who older who have that same.
But it don't mean that everybody younger, older, or black in America gonna have the same life.
Nah, black people can't agree on shit.
No, it ain't about agreeing, bro. It's just truth. You got your life. You don't have everybody else's life, and you can't live nobody else's life. You can only live yours.
Correct. But
you can only
live
when
we talk about freedom, Lucci, but when we talk about freedom, right?
But you can't speak on nobody else's freedom because it's not yours.
I can speak on general freedom. I can say ain't nobody free.
Right, but you can't speak.
I can say everybody in America is a slave.
Right, but you can't. But you still don't know everybody freedom rights.
I could say I could take it philosophically, and I could go as deep as saying nobody's free from death, so we all gonna die. So everybody's a slave to life. Okay, and then I could go deeper on that level, or I could say, well, on the context of law, on the rule of law, everybody's slaves. Nobody's sovereign, so everybody. So either way you want to go, like.
I mean, well, let me ask you this: Do you think Mr. Carson or Miss Chisholm feel like everybody's a slave?
I think that Miss Chisholm knew what I'm talking about as far as the correlation to law, to the rule of law. Yes, I think she absolutely knew that. That's why I think that she could go up there and she could say, I am not the candidate of Black America. although I am black and proud.
So if she's not a candidate of Black America, where's the slavery coming from?
Because she understands the legal context of what it means to be black. She understands the law. She understands the rule of law and what black is considered in the rule of law, because she probably studied it. She understands it. You know, that's why she could articulate, I'm not a candidate of Black America. You know, I am a black and proud, you know, and she could say, I'm not a candidate of the women's movement of this country. Like, although I am a woman, and like, you're separating yourself from something so large already. Like, how do you say I'm not a candidate of Black Americans when that civil, like, the only way you could say that is because for real, you not, she from the islands, you know, like, and I didn't want to, you know what I'm saying? I didn't want to take away from her, but she say that, you know, I don't want that to take away from her accomplishments and her self-determination and her accomplishments and what she did and becoming the first, and the pigment of her skin being black, you know, being a brown woman that you can't deny, you know, like when you walk down the street, they don't know until she opened her mouth that everything ivory, you know, they just see somebody who looked like Sister Girl from Brooklyn.
Right. And see,
Okay.
that's like, I got a lot of family from New York too, right? And all of my family from New York that live in New York, their parents may have raised them in New York as little children. They may have been born in New York, but all of my family in New York is not just residents of New York City. A lot of them live internationally. And when you live internationally, there could be a different sense of freedom or who you are than people who are just raised.
That's not a sense of freedom. That's a sense of separation. That's saying I'm
Well,
not.
hold on, bro. You cannot speak for everybody in the world, my brother. You can speak for you.
That's a fact, Lucci. That's a fact.
Hold on, but you trying to speak for people like, I'm talking about my family now, and you don't even know them.
Bro, I'm not, bro. I can't speak for your family because I'm speaking for all. I'm speaking for all.
Bro, you're not letting me speak, bro. That's what you're not doing, bro. You're not letting me speak, bro. You're trying to speak over me, bro. Let me talk for my family, bro. Let me talk and speak for myself, please.
Look, hold up. Let's not make it personal.
Then we can go to what you're saying.
Let's not make it personal. Because
I'm not trying to talk
because it's not about your family.
Listen, you're not letting me finish talking, bro. You're not letting me finish talking, my brother.
Make your point, Lucci. Make your point.
I'm trying to speak, my brother, and I've been listening.
No, go ahead and speak. Don't waste time on that. Finish.
Everybody got to live their own life, my brother, and I understand people got their own perspectives. But my people in Africa don't live like my people in Cuba. My people in Cuba and Africa don't live like my people in Spain. None of them live like my people in New York. And all of them got their own way of how they think, feel, and live. And different cultures, different communities, different people think and feel different ways. Even if they come to the same community at some point in time, it still don't mean they all coming with the same ideals that all should be under one, because it's different ways of thinking.
I never said that. I never said
no,
that.
I'm just saying that don't mean that
I never said
this one is right or that one is right, but you got to understand there are different ways of thinking and different ways of doing things, even if all the people are in the same place. Some people still gonna have different thoughts.
Check this out. I thought you was going to address my comment. I didn't know you was about to take it to somewhere else. But what my comment was that you were displeased with. My comment was and is that Black people from the islands are not Black people from America.
Right.
Okay. So what was the disagreement? They don't think the same, and they don't identify as the same either.
No, they don't. Nowhere near.
So what was all that?
So what I'm saying is that a person, like you said, she was in America, but she also had an upbringing that was partially in the islands. Right. And the philosophy that she may have adapted may not have came from an American situation. It could have came from a situation she learned in the islands.
No, it came from both. And I'm saying it came from both. I agree with you. It came from both. And that's why I'm saying she can comfortably, if she did not have that island upbringing, okay, then she would not feel comfortable saying, I am not a candidate of Black America. She would not feel comfortable saying that because she would have been here and went through and seen all that other stuff and been affected by it. So it hit different for people like who actually, grew up in those places where they seen the lynchings and seen that. Like, she got to go back to the islands. They wasn't, I'm not sure, but it doesn't seem like that they was lynching in Barbados and that they had the same, because you have more Black people in those islands who have political and positions of power, leadership.
Okay,
It's because they Black-led countries.
Well, let me ask you this question. Suppose she's seen lynching like there was in America in Barbados, right? And suppose she did see examples of that.
I can't do that. I can't do that theoretically, suppose, because clearly right here, for a person to say, I'm making a judgment. I'm saying that to say I'm not a candidate of Black America, right? No other Black politician during that time would say something like that, because their voting base was Black America, was the Negroes. We talking about 1970. That's when it was cool to be called Negro. That was Negroes. It was just coming from out the whole civil rights movement. So it's no way she's saying that because she's playing politics. And that's what I understand about that. She's playing politics, and it makes sense. But she could play that because didn't it say specifically that she spoke with a West Indian accent? So it's a difference when you speaking and you sound like we do, versus you sound like this. So you sound like and somebody's gonna automatically say, "Oh, you not like them." It's like Ali told me. He had a I can't call the tree. So I think it's a mango tree in his yard. I want to say the right fruit because my brother got fruit. And he said that a guy came up to him, approached him, and asked him where he was from. And when he told him that he was from Brooklyn, he looked at him crazy, because he assumed because he's growing food, he got mango trees, avocado trees, that ain't no American Black guy gonna be thinking like that. Now, that you got to be from the islands or something. Oh, you not an African? Oh, you not Caribbean? Oh, you not from somewhere else?
And that's the same thing I'm speaking on. That's the same thing I'm speaking on.
And that's what I'm saying, that she was doing. She did that. She utilized that. And the reason why she was able to utilize that is because she had that Barbadian background.
Well, let me say this. Hold on. Let me say this.
If she was just home girl from Brooklyn, that play couldn't have ran. She couldn't have.
Okay.
She couldn't have ran.
I understand what you're saying, but let me say it like this too. Just like you said about the brother that grow the mango trees, and like you saying about Miss Chisholm, and maybe they could be saying the way they think and do mean that they are free, no matter what people consider them to be or not, because at the end of the day, it's their actual choice and freedom to grow mangoes or to say she's not whatever she is. And even the people that live in America and don't live in America have the ability to say those same things and do those same things. It's kind of like they got the freedom to do and be what these people are being. And basically these people are exercising their freedom in their own way, whether it's to grow a tree or whether it's to speak or claim to be a certain way. That's a freedom too. You're not obligated to be like everybody else.
I agree, Lucci, but either you're gonna be down. You can't be halfway down. You gotta be all the way down if you're gonna be with it. And what I'm saying is this comment that she made right here: I am not the candidate of Black America, although I am Black and proud. I am not the candidate of women's movement in this country. The women's movement was so strong in this country, like that's saying I'm not a part of that. So you're not gonna get all of those women who who would be like, yeah, we with you, and they burning bras and all that stuff, and like they not gonna be standing with you.
Right. And see, that may be, and sometimes people don't want to be with people who want to be so fixed on their own agenda. because they're not looking at the rest of the world. They're just looking at their agenda. They're not caring about the rest of the world. They're caring about what they are there for only, and they're agenda oriented. That has no feelings in it for people or
let me
care.
tell you something. Let me tell you something why this is political suicide. Okay? Because it is the illusion. All right. And I say this, it is the illusion that people are elected by the people to do the work for the people. So you cannot go in there. You know, it's the same reason why we saw the first ever vice president, Madam Kamala Harris,
Right.
all right, have Meg the Stallion, Beyonce, Oprah, you know, all of these people. It's the same reason why she went to these people specifically to get them to speak, because they are part of the women's movement. They are part
They
of
didn't move.
Black.
They didn't
They are
win though.
part of Black America.
But
You
they
know,
didn't win on that. See, and I'll ask you a question again.
it don't
What
matter.
have, hold
It
on, let
don't
me ask you
matter.
this.
It
Hold
don't
on, let me
matter.
ask you this now. I'm coming back to the same question from the beginning. What has that won? I'm asking that again because this is a time to
I
say.
don't. Look. It's not about what it's won. That's not what I'm debating here. What I'm saying is that as a politician, all right, a part of these movements, you have to pick a base and you have to go after the people. That's why those moves are made. You're trying to go after who's leading the women's movement. Who do a lot of Black women listen to? Oh, all Black women love Beyonce. I don't pick an age. All Black women love Oprah. Pick an age. You know, and then you have certain amount of Black women that love Meg the Stallion. Pick an age, the girls in that age range, right? Okay, so that's influential. So if you say I'm not a candidate of Black America, then the Black men ain't gonna vote for you, the Black women ain't gonna vote for you, and then you say I'm not a candidate of the women's movement in this country. You just separated yourself. You just said, like, I ain't really from here. So I ain't really with the movement that y'all women in this country think y'all need to be having. I could understand where she coming from, because in the Caribbean, women have a different set of womanly rules and motherly principles, right? But you ain't in the Caribbean, boo. You in the U.S. Senate. So the game is different. So that's political suicide. You're not going to win. You're not going to get the Black people to vote for you, and you damn sure ain't going to get the white women to vote for you either, who were behind the women's movement of this country.
But somebody voted for her because she's the first.
No, that was for president. This the presidency. This is
You
this
talking
is
about
not
the presidency? You talking about? I mean,
this
all
was
right.
presidency, yeah, bro. Like she did the state legislature thing, because in Brooklyn, Brooklyn's full of immigrants. You know, it's full of people, and that's no disrespect. It's full of people from the Caribbean. You know.
Now let me ask you this. Now you know the time period you speaking on, like there was nobody bigger in I guess politics that was speaking about injustices.
In the 60s and 70s, man, take your pick. It was plenty of people out there. It's plenty of
I said in politics and government, Pearl.
Plenty.
Plenty.
I mean, bro, I'm not no historian. You know what I'm saying? Google it. Pull it up. You be on the show, pull it up.
I mean, I hear about judges. I haven't heard about no politician, congresswoman, or nobody like that. I've heard a lot of people. I just never heard of no.
Put it to you like this. Next show, I'm gonna have a list of activists, you know, anybody who was an activist during 1960 to 1975. I mean, the list goes, it's a bunch of them. From 60 to 65, that's when Miss Chisholm was around.
Yeah, but I'm talking about in the government, not speaking against it.
Bro, it don't matter.
It matter to me, because if you
because if you on the team, then are you really an adversary?
See, injustices is speaking about injustices, and making it sound like because a person's job speaking about injustices, like they don't count because they're a government person speaking about injustice, but a person who not working in the government speaking about injustices, that do count.
Bro,
Nah, I don't think
let me say this.
Hold on, no, let me finish, bro. I think speaking about injustices, period, is speaking about injustices, no matter how people feel or what they're already doing. If they speaking about injustices, bro, they already speaking about it. Now, there's one thing to speak about something, and it's another thing to do something about something. But at least bringing awareness is better than doing nothing at all.
So I disagree with that. Okay,
You may. That's
because
your
I
choice.
think no. We on the show. Just remember that. So like, and it ain't about agreeing with everything. So like, what I'm saying is this: if you ain't gonna do nothing for real, then all you doing is talking.
Thank you.
Okay.
But who's saying the right things if they're talking about injustices, or are they talking about nothing?
So if I work for the government,
right,
okay, and all I'm doing is talking, that's all I'm doing is talking. I don't really have no plans of doing nothing because of how it works, because of how you have to introduce a bill, then it has to get passed, and then it has to get voted on, then it has to get re-voted on to hear it, and then you have to, like I watch C-SPAN, bro. So like I have watched. I don't lately I've been putting my energy into doing things for me, but every now and again I check out C-SPAN. And the way the process works, understanding how bills get introduced, laws get passed, all right? Like it's a whole process of voting and voting and voting and voting and voting to hear the vote, voting to vote again, voting on the motion and voting on the, like it's all these daggone votes. So just a person speaking on it does nothing. All right. And once you get in the government, there's a process. So it don't matter if you standing on it and you yelling about it till you blue in the face. If you can't get nothing done, you can't get nothing done. And then what happened is your constituency will get you up out of there because they're like, you ain't trying to focus on the other stuff that we need to get done so everybody can keep getting paid and blah, 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 and how this shit really works. Okay. So if you have somebody outside looking in, the person who's the non-government employee, they're more passionate about it because they're not on payroll.
But what are they gonna get done?
Who knows? I'm not saying this.
You said what they got to get done got to go through the government. You just said that, right?
In order for a law to get passed, that's the way things work.
So if they're not in the government and they're just talking, they're not getting anything done.
I agree. But that's not what I'm arguing. I'm saying that regardless, if you're an employee, all right, then you definitely ain't going to do nothing. Okay? That's my point I'm making. If you're an employee, so what we talking about is Miss Chisholm here separating herself. I am not a candidate of Black America, although I am Black and proud. I'm not a candidate of the women's movement in the country. So that means that if Black America has a problem, right? And you're not the candidate of Black America, then you're not going to address Black America's problems.
Well, see what I'm saying is this: like some people would say,
I am not a candidate of the women's movement.
Let me say this now. Let me say this.
I'm not. Hold up, guy. I ain't finished my statement. I am also not a candidate of the women's movement of this country. So that means if women of this country have something that they're upset with, right, then I'm inclined to think you ain't gonna do nothing about that either.
Okay, well, let me say it like this, bro. This is what I'm trying to say. I understand what she's saying in the vernacular like this. Like Black Lives Matter, okay? That's a movement that was related to Black people that existed not too long ago. A lot of people was for lives, period. A lot of people was for Black lives, period. But nobody was speaking for Black Lives Matter to be ended up in a corrupt situation, okay? And it seemed like people that was involved with Black Lives Matter, speaking the most about it, some of them could have been some of the most corrupt people using the agenda, speaking loudly and acting like they're really for the cause, but they didn't do nothing to help the cause in that fashion. Now, anybody, whether you in or out of any position, if you speaking right and you doing right, you supporting the cause right. That's just simply the way I see it. I mean, everybody
or
got.
are they just bumping their gums?
Well, I mean, I can't say they just bumping their. I can't say what everybody's doing. I'm not everywhere to see and judge everybody. I wouldn't try to go that route because I know that
Or are
I
they
can
just,
only
or
cover
are
so
they
much.
just motivational speakers, and that's what they should really be calling themselves?
I
You know,
don't
instead
know.
of activists.
I don't know, but I'm just saying that the same way that she said that she don't want to be a part of particular movements, don't mean that she don't support the people and the injustices going against those
How,
people.
Lucci? How?
I'm trying to explain. Okay, let me finish speaking,
How?
bro, and I will
No,
tell
go
you.
ahead. I just asked you how
Okay,
on what you just said. How?
because some of these people doing these movements, like I just mentioned with the Black Lives Matter movement, they will start a movement that sounds good, but it don't mean that they conducted it the best and the right way. It don't mean that they conducted it the way that other people involved with the situation and for that situation feel and see would be the healthiest way to go about it. Just like it was the pro-black movement. That was another black movement. Some felt violent, some felt non-violent. Everybody didn't see the pro-black movement to be handled the same way, even though all of them was pro-black. Some
Okay.
pro-blacks was non-violent, some pro-blacks was violent. And
Okay.
that's just the way it's been when it comes to certain movements. Everybody don't see going there getting the same goal done the same way, but they would like to see the same results.
Okay.
And so
Can
by
you go back to the
saying,
Black Lives Matter? Because because the Black Lives Matter movement and the civil rights movement, when you had a Martin Luther King saying turn the other cheek in peace, and you had a Malcolm X, and you had, you know, the Black Panther Party, and those people, like, it's two different whole dynamics, like, and people consciously were in a different place. So I don't even see no correlation to the two, like, at
Nah,
all. Like,
it ain't no different because some of the people here that was a part of IBPP and was a part of those movements in the late 60s and 70s could still be here and a part of movements today. And bottom line is, being involved with movements, you got to understand the movements have their own agendas, and sometimes the leaders of those movements may feel like going a particular direction that not even the majority of the people of those movements feel like doing. It's movement. It's a movement, and that's what I was trying to get at with Miss Chisholm. With all due respect, some people would take a movement and have it named and titled a great thing, but you may not agree with their sense of direction and how they going about getting it done. So you may not want to be used as, you know, an example for them, not fully agreeing with all that they doing. And it could be just that simple, because I've seen that happen a lot over my whole lifetime, especially when it comes to movements.
And she wasn't all the way down then. You know what I'm saying? So we still gonna celebrate her, but she wasn't all the way down. To make a statement like, I'm not the candidate of Black America, although I am Black and proud. I'm not the candidate of the women's movement of this country. She wasn't for the women of this country either. That means black or white. That's how that can be interpreted. Now, she's not here to explain herself, right? But she says, although I am a woman and equally proud of that, she can be a woman and equally proud of that, selfishly, all right, as she should be. But to say I'm not the candidate of the women's movement of this country, that is separatism. That is separating myself from identity-wise. I am not a woman of this country. I don't think like them. I wasn't raised like them.
Listen, she said,
I
I'm
don't
not a
believe.
candidate of the women's movement. She clearly separated herself from the movement, not black women, not the country.
What you think the movement is, Lucci? What you think the movement is?
You asked what that movement is, and see, that is the question mark that hasn't yet been defined.
No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not.
I mean, if it's defined, then you can say what the black.
I'm defining it. I'm assuming. I'm guessing. I'm thinking I'm absolutely correct. During the 60s and the 70s, We had the civil rights. That was Black America. That was everybody trying to get rights and things, even post the Civil Rights Act. The women's women's movement was women trying to get equal rights as well. So, and all this stuff was post the Civil Rights Act. So
don't you see how much equal rights been done since then, Pearl? You acting like what was done in 63 was the end all be all. It was the beginning of it was the beginning of all of the civil rights.
We don't need to talk about that. That's the waste of your breath.
Have been getting since
That's
then.
the waste of your breath. We talking about 72 though. We talking about
we talking about life in general.
We ain't talking about no, we not. No, now you changing the conversation to that. I'm
because
talking about Shirley
I said from the 60s
72.
to the day. I said from the 60s to the day, bro. That's what
it's
my
not
example was.
It's not the same. It's not the same.
I know it's not the same because time brings change, bro. And can't no person determine that or control that. Time brings
people have.
Time will bring change no matter what people
have. It's still, and see, that's not the case, bro.
So you saying time don't bring change?
So what I'm saying is that people still have to initiate these things in order for them to change. Okay. So it's just like what was that thing that what they call that thing? The equal opportunity.
That's EEOC.
Affirmative action. Right.
That's no organization.
So those things had those bills, those laws, all right, had to still have people that were candidates of Black America, candidates of the women's movement in this country. Okay, they had to have that. They had to be that in order for those things to manifest themselves, so we could see them today. Those equal opportunities like that. So for her to say that she's not a candidate of Black America and I'm not the candidate of women's movement in this country, it's just one of them things. I ain't know. I'm just discovering this and celebrating. We still celebrating her, but it's some flaw in her jacket. I see a chink in that, you know, and I wouldn't support her neither. I wouldn't support her neither if I was around at that time and I was a black male in America and a Black woman comes out publicly and says, I'm not the candidate of Black America. And if I had a wife and little girls, little Black American girls, okay, I'm not the candidate of a women's movement of this country, then guess what? We ain't voting for her. We not supporting her. Plain and simple. Because because you look like it, you got
the candidates out there that are not supporting Black people that even Black people vote for.
I mean,
so I don't know why
how many people go jump off a bridge? How many people do coke?
Thank you. So I don't know. So a person saying one thing,
so that don't mean
a person
nothing.
saying one thing is not the end all be all, because it's them speaking for. They can only speak for themselves.
Yeah, but we're here to celebrate her, right? And we discussing,
right.
And we're discussing her life, and we're discussing things that she says. So I think we spent too much time on this, so we can ready to continue. But I would not support Shirley Chisholm for president.
I would.
You know,
I would
not. I would not have. And if that's the way she felt to this day, if that was her running instead of Kamala Harris, I still wouldn't have supported her. Not saying that. If she would have came up there and said, I'm not a candidate of Black America and I'm not a candidate of the women's movement of this country. Matter of fact, she wouldn't have got any gay women in this country. Okay. None of them. Zero.
But that don't mean that she wanted them.
Zero.
They don't mean that she wanted them. She didn't say that she was politicking.
And I'm not a candidate of Black America. Okay, then the only reason Black women would have voted for her is being delusional because they just voting because her complexion. So
and they might not have voted for her even with that.
But they weren't gonna vote for Trump because if it was Shirley Chisholm versus Trump, they would have probably voted for her just out of the two of the lesser evils in their mindset, you know. But for a Black woman to profess that, all right, you know, like I'm not illiterate. I understand what it means. I understand what it means.
I'm not illiterate neither, but I understand that everybody got their own freedoms and don't have to listen to what nobody else feels.
Yeah, but you talking about somebody who potentially has the ability to sway policy.
But they do have their own freedoms, like everybody else.
You know, but this is different. We talking about public service. We're not talking about what you get up and do on your own volition, on your own time. Like if I get up and and in my capacity as a Coast Guardsman, I get up and I got to go drive boats and I got to go save lives, or I got to jump out of helicopters or fly helicopters, or I got to provide meals, or I got to do logistics or whatever it is. Like I need to be sharp, and I also need to be considerate of the people that I am servicing, that my job is for. Okay, so to say I'm not a candidate of Black America, well, are you a candidate of white America?
She didn't say she was.
Okay, but this the thing, it will be assumed if you ain't for us, then you for them. And I'm not saying that I would interpret it like that, but I'm saying that it could very well be interpreted like that.
I know the men didn't pick her up, and I don't think white America picked her up neither. So.
I mean, she wasn't successful in her attempt.
So that's what I'm getting at. I don't think nobody picked her up. Maybe that was a freedom she wanted, to not be picked up by any of the movements. I don't know. But it is
nobody runs to lose. You know, nobody runs to lose. I don't think nobody plays to lose intentionally.
But I don't think nobody play the way everybody think they want to play, because it's a game. Because everybody play the game they want to play it. She could have wanted to play like that because she has that freedom. That's what I'm saying. She might have
the freedom to play with people and waste their time.
Yeah, and not get votes and say she's gonna be president. That was her choice. That's right. That was her choice. She did it. She did it. And that's what I'm saying. Whatever it was, she did it because she had the option and the freedom to do that. And maybe that's what she was just exercising, the freedom that she can do it. Don't mean that she was going to win from it or gain from it. But
right here it says, later she said, when I ran for the Congress, when I ran for president, I met more discrimination as a woman than for being Black. Men are men. And particularly, she expressed frustration about the Black matriarch thing, saying they think I'm trying to take power from them. The Black man must step forward, but that doesn't mean the Black woman must step back. Her husband, however, was fully supportive of her candidacy and said, I have no hangups about a woman running for president. Of course not. That's your wife. Bingo. Security was also a concern, as during the campaign, 3 confirmed threats were made against her life, of course, in the 70s. And Comrade Chisholm served as her bodyguard until Secret Service protection was given to her. And so her husband, right, was her bodyguard until she was given Secret Service protection.
Hey, right? That's his woman. He's supposed to protect her.
So what it was it even shows how naive she was. Okay. It even shows how naive she was and how she was in her own world. All right, to say that I'm not a candidate of Black America. It also shows how naive she was, or in her own world, to say I'm not a candidate of the women's movement of this country.
That's right.
When during those particular years, those were the biggest social issues going on. You know, so you just distance yourself from them, but you want to be the leader of the free world. Like, nah. You know, so, you know.
This remind me a little bit about Colin Powell.
You know, so we're going to stick on Shirley Chisholm because we celebrating Shirley Chisholm and we got to get to Byron Allen. At the 1972 Democratic National Convention in Miami Beach, there were still efforts taking place by the campaign of the former Vice President Hubert Humphrey to stop the nomination of Senator George McGovern for president. After that failed, McGovern's nomination was assured. As a symbolic gesture, Humphrey released his Black delegates to Chisholm. This, combined with defections and disenchantment delegations from other candidates, as well as delegates that she had won in the primaries, gave her a total of 152 first ballot votes for the presidential nomination during the July 12 roll call. Her precise total was 151.95. Her largest support came from Ohio, And even though she had not been on the ballot in May 2nd primary, her total gave her 4th place in the roll call tally. Chisholm said that she ran for office in spite of hopeless odds to demonstrate the sheer will and refusal to accept the status quo. And for that we love. For that we love and we salute that Shirley Chisholm was able to say, you know what, I'm going to try to do this regardless. I think her policies and her position needed a little bit more education. I think she was in a world of her own. That's just my own personal opinion, learning about Shirley Chisholm and her efforts. But I do say this, she was the first Black woman elected to the Senate, the U.S. Senate, and that's a huge accomplishment. But once again, we look at that as 1968. You know, and there were, and this just shows how few Black people, Black Americans, were being selected for positions. You know, now I don't know who was more qualified or if anybody have ran prior to her, but being the first to be selected and elected, you know, that is a major accomplishment, and it paves the way for all of the other Black American women and men that we have seen go on to run our great nation. So for that, we salute Shirley Chisholm, and we will close out her honors and awards. So American honors, Shirley Chisholm is the Congressional Gold Medalist by the posthumously awarded by the Shirley Chisholm Congressional Gold Medal Act, signed by President Joe Biden. That was December 24th. That just happened, y'all. Presidential Medal of Freedom, given to her by President Barack Obama at a ceremony at the White House, November 2015. She also received the William L. Dawson Award by the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation in 1982. Honorary degrees in 1974, Chisholm was awarded an honorary doctorate of law degree by Aquinas College, and there was a commencement speaker, and was their commencement speaker. So she spoke in 74 at Aquinas College. In 1975, Chisholm was awarded an honorary doctorate of law degree by Smith College. In 81, she was awarded an honorary doctorate of law degree by Mount Holyoke College. In 1996, Chisholm was awarded honorary doctor of law degree by Stetson University in DeLand, Florida. Other recognitions. In 1991, Chisholm was the commencement speaker at East Stroudsburg University in Pennsylvania, where she received the first ever conferred honorary doctorate degree from the university. That's dope. In 1992, she was included in the National Women's Hall of Fame. 1993, she was inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame. In 2002, scholar Melofi Kiti Asante included Shirley Chisholm on his list of 100 greatest African Americans. In January 31, 2014, Shirley Chisholm Forever Stamp was issued. It's the 37th stamp of the Black Heritage Series of the U.S. stamps. The Shirley Chisholm Living Learning Community at Mount Holyoke College in South Hadley, Massachusetts, is a residential hall floor in which students of African descent can choose to live. And we will talk about her books real quick before we get up out of here, so y'all can do more research. Shirley Chisholm wrote 2 autobiographies. In 1970, Unbought and Unbossed. She also, in 2010, Scott Simpson, Unbought and Unbossed. That's the expanded version of 40th anniversary, and The Good Fight in 1973. So If y'all want to get some books on Miss Shirley Chisholm and support the family or whoever gets those proceeds, Unbought and Unbossed and The Good Fight. So y'all can go check them out right there. And we want to salute to Miss Shirley Chisholm and say, you the bomb, baby. Even though your politics is a little crazy, we still salute you for all the good that you do. And like I said, on this show, man, we're going to talk about the good and the bad and the ugly, but we are here to celebrate, no doubt. And that's what we're going to do.
No doubt.
So make sure to like and share the video. Also subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode of Soul Food History. Tonight, y'all, we've been celebrating Dr. Ben Carson, Miss Shirley Chisholm, and our third and final, last but never least, honoree this evening is Mr. Byron Allen. All right, so we got Byron Allen here, y'all. Byron Allen Folks, born Byron Allen Folks on April 22, 1961, is an American businessman, film and television producer, and comedian. He is the founder of the U.S. media company, Allen Media Group, formerly Entertainment Studios, which has interests in television production, broadcasting, film production, and digital media. Born in Detroit and later moving to Los Angeles, he initially pursued a career in stand-up comedy. After an appearance on The Tonight Show, Allen began to expand into television work, including becoming a host for NBC's Real People. In 1993, Allen established what would later become known as Entertainment Studios. Allen was born in Detroit, growing up there until 1968, where he moved to LA with his mother after her divorce. Once again, we see parents, we see divorce, we see a time where a child can be stressed out, can be, not knowing if are they separating because of me, as things going through their head. It's trauma. Your family separates. That's a part of adversity. So I highlight these things, y'all, because it's just normal things. Like people say the divorces aren't normal and this, that, and the third. Man, these normal things that people been going with. We seen this in Dr. Ben Carson's life, and we seen this in Byron Allen's life. We seen where they had to move around and go to different places. We even saw that with Shirley Chisholm, where she had to move to the islands. She wasn't even with her parents for a while. She was with grandma. So that happens too. I've had that in my family where a little cousin go live with grandma for a little while. I go live with grandma, go stay with an aunt or something like that because you're not at home. And, so all of these things, everybody is going through the same thing, y'all. This is just American culture, so that's why we here celebrating American Black success, because everybody got something to go through, but that don't mean that it's going to break you. That don't mean that you got to give up. That don't mean that you got to use that as the blame for not wanting more or desiring to be better or striving for something else. Continuing to read. His interest in show business began during childhood when he accompanied his mother, Carolyn Folks, to NBC Studios in Burbank, where she worked as a publicist. At age 14, Allen put together his first stand-up routine and began appearing on amateur night at comedy clubs throughout LA. At 14, Allen attended high school at Fairfax High School in LA and college at the University of Southern California, USC, y'all. Professional career. Real quick. Jimmy Walker, y'all know who Jimmy Walker is? JJ, Saul Islands, JJ, y'all know from Good Times. So Allen stand-up act and invited the 14-year-old to join his comedy writing team alongside promising comedians Jay Leno and David Letterman. So Byron Allen got his start with the likes of Jay Leno and David Letterman. Okay, that's major because that's a hell of a freshman class. All right. In 1979, at the age of 18, Allen made his television debut on The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson, becoming the youngest comedian ever to perform on the show. He used the appearance to learn more about the television industry. Following his appearance on The Tonight Show, NBC cast Allen as a reporter for his series Real People, his first role on a network primetime program. Allen co-wrote and co-starred in the 1988 CBS television film Cold Case, Case Closed. Hosted and syndicated late night talk show, The Byron Allen Show, from 89 to 92, and toured as an opening act for musicians such as Dolly Parton, Gladys Knight, Lionel Richie, and the Pointer Sisters. The comedy before the show, that was cool. In 1993, Allen established a production company known as CF Entertainment, which would be devoted to producing low-cost, nonfiction television programs. Its first program would be syndicated talk show Entertainers with Byron Allen, which featured interviews between Allen and celebrities. The interviews, much like people doing with podcasts now. So it's safe to say, like, I'm not an entertainer. I don't know a whole bunch of celebrities, but when we see celebrities like transition into something where now they doing the podcast, and like Drink Champs, Nori and them, he used to rap all the time, right? So now he transitioned, so now he's doing interviews with Gilly and Wallow. Gilly used to rap all the time, right? And now they doing interviews. So this is a thing, we could say that Byron Allen is one of the pioneers of that too. Okay. Because he actually did something else prior to. He was a comedian prior to. All right. We're not saying like if you had a show like the Johnny Carson show. Like, we don't know what Johnny Carson did prior to being Johnny Carson. He just had the show where he was interviewing celebrities. But when you look at Byron Allen, it's showing like how he actually was doing other things. He was doing shows. Matter of fact, he was opening up for Dolly Parton, Gladys Knight, Lionel Richie, the Pointer Sisters. He had the Byron Allen show from so he was already a celebrity. Then he said, you know what? I'm gonna start my own thing, and I'm gonna use my Rolodex, and I'm gonna sit down and talk with all these people, kind of like Shay Club Shannon Sharp. So the interviews were filmed at hotel press junkets for upcoming films, using equipment set up by their distributors for use by the media. This allowed Allen to produce the show on a relatively small budget. Allen distributed the program under a bartered model in which it would be offered to stations at no cost, with revenue sharing on advertising sales. That's what I'm on that right now. I'm soaking up the game. Thank you, Mr. Allen. Good folks. The business model was not initially successful, resulting in Allen's home facing multiple foreclosures. Oh, he was putting the house up. We're not putting the house up though. And at one point, losing telephone service, requiring him to conduct business via payphone. Now, this is key though. He put the house up, and when it says right here that he was facing some foreclosures, this is showing that like he was either, second mortgage in the house or something, he locking it, or missing payments. Okay. And trying to flip that money, trying to put that money into his business. Okay. Where it says at one point he was losing telephone service and he had to go to the payphone. Those don't even exist anymore. All right. But what it shows you is the self-determination, where it's saying, what, this shit ain't about the money. Like if I can be successful at what I'm doing, I can buy me 20 houses. I'll have the house that I really want to have. That like this is this one. You can get more houses. But being legendary is something that's hard to do twice. So continuing to read, the company was renamed Entertainment Studios in 2003. In 2012, Allen began forays into scripted programming with the sitcoms The First Family and Mr. Box Office. Later in the decade, entertainment studios began to pursue various acquisitions, including film distributor, Freestyle Releasing, The Griot, The Weather Channel, and the equity stake in Sinclair Broadcast Group, acquisition of the Fox Sports Network, FS1, and broadcast television stations. By October 22, the company was valued at over $4.5 billion. Salute to that guy. In February, Allen made a bid. 2022, Allen made a bid to buy the Denver Broncos, and he was ultimately outbid. In 2023, Allen made an unsuccessful bid for $3 billion for Paramount's BET Media Group. So my man was trying to buy the Broncos, and my man was trying to buy BET Media Group. And y'all see this? See how he started? And then where he at now? He buying football teams. He trying to buy football teams and other larger entertainment companies, you know, conglomerate. Like BET been around for the longest. That's why we gotta celebrate you. That's why we gotta say people don't hear enough about Byron Allen. People don't even know who he is. They see him. You could be in Starbucks and not even know who this guy is. His face is so, not recognized. And it's not that we trying to, blow his spot up, but I mean, man, you deserve some accolades. You deserve to get some flowers while you still here. So we just want to give them to you and celebrate Black American successes. That's what we doing. Awards. In 2018, Allen was selected for the Bloomberg 50 as one of the people in business, entertainment, finance, politics, technology, and science whose 2018 accomplishments were particularly noteworthy. He was also selected for the 100 most intriguing entrepreneurs at Goldman Sachs Builders and Innovator Summit in 2018, and he was honored at the Salvation Army and the Los Angeles Metropolitan Advisory Board of the Salvation Army's 11th annual Christmas Kettle Luncheon. And I appreciate that because as a youth, I used to go to the Salvation Army for summer camps and stuff like that. And I remember making little artwork with macaroni shells and all that type of stuff. We used to have fun in there. It used to be a girl in there used to kiss me all the time. In January 2019, Allen was a recipient of National Association of Television Program Executives' 16th annual Brandon Tikoff Legacy Awards, presented during the annual NATPE Miami Marketplace and Conference. Allen received the 2019 Whitney Young Award at the 46th annual Los Angeles Urban League Awards dinner. In February 2023, the African American Student Unit of Harvard Business School presented Allen with its inaugural legendary honor. And these are some of his filmography. This is some of his filmography stuff right here. 1979 Hollywood Squares, the Alan Thicke Show, the Merv Griffin Show, Case Closed, the Byron Allen Show, Comics Unleashed, The First Family, Funny You Ask, Bel Air, America's Sweetheart. Then we got some crew work he did, 47 meters down, 47 meters down in Cage, Arctic Dogs. And he executive produced all this stuff. Case Closed, Comics Unleashed, Funny You Should Ask, The Hurricane Heist, The World's Funniest Weather. And that's all we really got right there on Byron Allen, but we want to salute to him. And we want to salute to him and really thank, Byron Allen for all his contributions and his successes and the example that he set through his hard work.
Yeah, he seemed to show that he had some type of business savvy that maybe you couldn't get in school, or maybe you just couldn't read in a book, because he knew how to navigate around the industry and build an empire. And his mother, being involved with it as a publicist, she may have had a lot in teaching him as well on how to set a foundational situation so that he could grow into the media mogul he is today. So I think that's kind of like another situation where the primary direct family members or relatives or associates seem to have a very, very, very strong impact in some form or fashion in a productive way as well, helping each one of the people that we looked at tonight grow. So seem to be a continuation, may not been really directly from their descendants or parents that they carry with them in some form or fashion. But I just feel like Mr. Carson, his demeanor, and by his father being a minister, may have helped him be more temperamental and get more into education. But everybody has something directly related to their descendants, as far as Miss Chisholm and Mr. Allen, and their workload and how they live. So.
Yeah. So tonight, y'all, we celebrated Dr. Ben Carson, Shirley Chisholm, and Byron Allen, and we just want to thank you all. Even if you see this or don't see, we know Shirley Chisholm watching from the grave, but we want to thank y'all, man. We celebrating Black American success over here, soul food history, and if you got any closing words, God, I'm gonna go ahead and close out the show, because that's it right there. That's gonna be our time for this evening. You got any final words?
No final words. Salute to everyone that we saluted to tonight. Much respect.
Definitely. So we want to thank everybody for joining us this evening. Make sure to like and share the video. Also subscribe to the channel, y'all, so when we go live, you never miss a episode of Soul Food History. We're gonna continue this next week. We have 3 more Black Americans that we are going to highlight and celebrate. And that's what we do here on Soul Food History. We learn about the achievements, the struggles, the traumas, what some Black people have overcome, what some Black Americans have overcome. And we disagree with stuff too, like everything ain't always, but we're gonna look at everything, but ultimately we are here to celebrate them. We're here to inform and let people know, like, they coming from the same place. They coming from the same background, same struggle. So if you want it bad enough, it's people who have exemplified, and I don't think that there's enough of that. I don't think we do enough encouraging or there's enough awareness being made of, like, look, we just talked about 3 phenomenal Black Americans who all came from literally broken homes, with the exception of Shirley Chisholm, but there still was a need where the parents had to send the children away, to do whatever they needed to do to get the environment right, to bring the kids back. So that still mean that they ain't got it all together. That still mean that it takes work. It takes everybody working together. It takes some perseverance. It takes some tolerance, but definitely, Lucci, I want to thank you for pulling up this evening. We're going to be right back at it next time. And we want to thank all of you all for learning with us this evening and celebrating with us this evening. So we'll see y'all next time right here on Soul Food History. And that's all we got. Peace, God.
Peace.
This whole publication is all about going from nowhere to somewhere, right? Being able to stand on something so that you can travel in peace, right? So bksoulfarm.com, 1016 160 self-sustainability. Jump on a list and get yourself together, right? Because it is irresponsible to not even know what responsibility means. So get yourself together, food, clothing, and shelter, protection of that, support your interests, and live.